Hello and welcome to Dodge, Parry Roll, your fortnightly Australian independent video game and existential crisis show. I am your host, Joshua LaRosa, joined as always by my dear friend Vinnie. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm doing really well. How you doing? We got some guests here.
Yeah, I was wondering, it's like, how long could we go before they kind of look at the camera going, you going to introduce us or not? But we are joined by some very special guests, our dear friends at For the Players podcast, Ryan Betson and Max Cooper. Ryan, how are you?
I'm very well, my dude. Thanks for having us. It's good to return the favor.
It is. Max, lovely to meet you.
Nice to meet you. It's nice to meet the man who replaced me for a week. You did a fantastic job. I enjoyed. I watched it live at work. It was great. It was good fun.
Now, I've got a comment, firstly. Ryan, your background. Your
Yes.
set. Very impressive. I think I said this last time.
Thank you. Yeah, the beauty, like, I love this set. So for those listening on the audio stream, now that you guys have it, so the set behind me is it's the classic YouTuber sound foam. It's purple and black squares with a bunch of Kmart shelves that I've just stocked all the assorted shit that I spent too much money on over many years behind me. But it used to be.
It's actually just a green screen, and it just a still image.
Just a still
Nuh-uh,
image.
I can knock shit off over all day if I want.
Is that Vita real?
That is, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
That one, yeah, up there. There's a Vita up there, and there's a PSP there. And
PS1, PS2, PS3.
it's only missing the PS4 because that still lives with my son. And he plays the things on it. But yeah, so it used to actually be a much bigger and more complicated set. So back in the day when we had a whole spare bedroom that I had the full setup, it was fantastic. That was also when we used to record in person, and then a whole pandemic happened. And then we realized that this is actually easy if I don't have to go anywhere. So I had to just build a smaller condensed version of it. But yeah, so I've just accumulated like all the things I love, which is PlayStation, wrestling, and like Reboot as well. But no.
I really appreciate it. It's good. Me and Vinny have really like stock white backgrounds. I work from this room, and there was a time where I used to have like all my video game stuff in here, and I had a whole wall of Power Rangers behind me and an old CRT TV that was way too big and heavy. But then I moved it into the front room, and then we started doing this show, and I'm like, well, I kind of feel like I'm here doing like tax advice. Like I'm about to do Vinny's taxes as opposed to doing a video game podcast. But
it was the fun part. So I worked from home for about 18 months, and this is where I did all my meetings, everything. It was an immediate conversation starter, which was really great. Never took me really very seriously though. Wonder why.
Yeah. It's a
Max,
good icebreaker though, like you said.
yeah.
Yeah, where Max is great because you can see assortment of like baby shit, and then some pops and some Lego that he likes building. That's the house of two children.
All my wife's smut is like behind me.
Big
It
book
tells
talk
a
fan.
story. It tells a story, though. He's a man of the people with kids, family man. Loves board games.
I mean, WD-40 right here.
Of course. You've got to have silicon spray and WD-40 in your house at all times.
The best part is occasionally his wife will come in and need something. So you just see these arms come off the screen and grab something and like sneak it back.
Yeah, that's
Amazing.
all part of it. What did I do last time, Vinny?
Or now a cat will just randomly appear and be thrown out.
Oh,
of...
good old Kev, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Pets should always be allowed on podcasts, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
I
And
think so
small
too.
children. Yeah, my son used to break in like one of those velociraptors in Jurassic Park. I'd be trying to record the show, you look over the door handle and see this.
never go.
I'm like, fucking you little shit. And he's in.
Oh.
It's in it like that sleep paralysis demon. The door flings over. He's just like standing there
Standing there in
looking
the
at
shadow?
shit. He's
Yeah.
like, I'm going to fuck up this podcast. Let's go.
I think last podcast I had to step out to give my wife the clothes hanging.
Close
racks.
horse.
So
You did, yeah.
I just stepped away and said, keep going. Good luck.
And then you just started lowering your desk mid podcast as well.
That will happen. Yeah, you've got a bit of corporate
Yeah.
Josh here today. I've got the standing desk. I can move. Look.
Yeah, I have a
anything can
standing
happen.
desk also, so I may do the same in some time.
But
I mean, I haven't used mine in ages, but it still works, I think.
Me either. I am feeling a lot of peer pressure from Josh. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
so I'll do
Like
your
I'm
taxes
sitting, we're all
afterwards.
sitting comfortably, and he's like, "I'm just gonna stand because I'm good and it's good for your posture and your overall health." I'm like, what a prick! And I'm like,
Yeah, I'm a little prick. That's right. But enough Chitter chatter? Is it? Yeah, that's the right one. Chitter chatter.
Sure.
It would be good to get. Obviously, we've introduced you guys hosts as for the Players podcast, but it'd be good to get for those who are listening on our end who haven't heard your show, what you guys do, how long you've been doing it. Yeah, Ryan, maybe I'll pass to you.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Ryan. This is Max. So we host a weekly PlayStation podcast called For the Players, the Pop Culturist PlayStation podcast. We've been doing it for the better part of this week was 437th episode.
Wow.
So we've been doing the better part of 6+ years. On top of that, it's a spin-off of what my original content brand was called. It was called the Pop Culturists, and the idea is we would cover all bunch of series of pop culture with movies, TV, games, etc. And then eventually we just started niching up, and I started realizing I didn't really care as much about those things, but some things I really cared about, which was and has always been PlayStation. And then after the original host of For the Players chose to leave, Max was like, yeah, I'll come in, why not? I've never done a podcast in my life. And then proceeds to absolutely smash it, and has now been in the show longer than the original host. And we've been doing it for a very, very long ass time. As we say, at the beginning of the show, over 50 years playing PlayStation and 15+ years in games media combined. It's been a good run. It's been a good run, and I still love it absolutely each and every single day. I always think about it. I want to come do more shows, and that also creates opportunities like this. It's been a very long time since we've all, jumped on pods, because the pod scene has kind of dissipated in the gaming space. It's all Twitch content, that sort of stuff now.
Yeah, you got that.
But that's how I look at it anyway. But Max, what about you? That's just the show. We can pitch ourselves in a moment too. But
what about me? What about me?
But,
how have you found being on the media side? Obviously, Vinny and I are amateurs, so no media access over here. But yeah, we're interested in how you grown into that.
I've become much more cynical.
it happens pretty quick. Yeah.
Like the E3 time used to excite me, and now it's just like, oh god, what's gonna happen now?
Okay, yeah.
It's one of those things, but sometimes peeking behind the kimono just ruins the experience for everyone, and sometimes it just allows you to change or shift your perspective a little bit, and it may be better, it may be worse, and it's a little bit of both. I
mean, you play a lot of games. I listen to the show each week, and I'm like, he's already finished. He's finished Pragmata. He's finished Saros. Man.
It's a Capcom game. It only took 8 hours.
Yeah. See, I like to self-impose. I like to stretch things out. So I like to self-impose limits. I'm like, that's enough for today. I don't want to. I don't want to enjoy this too much in one hit.
It all started with the legendary weekend that was The Last of Us.
Last of Us. Yeah.
We were graciously given a code ahead of time for review, and Ryan's like, let's try and get it done before the show. I'm like, okay, and I did it in a single sitting, and Ryan didn't at all.
To go to record the show, I've been playing The Last of Us Part 2 for 26 hours straight. I'm like, yeah, I've not finished it.
How hard was it?
We want to hit embargo, we want to get it done, let's go. And I tried reasonably hard, not as hard as Max did, obviously.
Yeah, at the time, my kid was like 1. Allie's like, I'm going to Ballarat for the day. I'm going to take the kid. Go for it. I'm like, okay. And she's like, have you moved? Have you eaten? I don't know.
Yeah. And what a game to do that with.
Just doing
Last of Us Part 2.
I
mean, one sitting probably sounds a little painful.
It's a fantastic game, but Max doesn't see it that way. He can't.
Yeah,
it's literally incapable.
There may be a little bias.
But to expand on your question, it is interesting. It is in some ways a lot simpler than you would think, and it's not as flashy as people would think either. So I've been involved in the media side for 10 years at this point, and because I'm not we've never been journalists per se, we've always been enthusiast press. Our way of looking at it's always been very, very different, right? It's the best part about working in this side, and we kind of naturally fell into it because, at least for myself, it's the way I think about the industry anyway. So I think, as I said on our show, Josh, after you came in, for someone that's not in the space, you have the brain for it. You know, the way you focus on more than just the game as well, outside of, you know, playing it. It's the breaking it down, looking at it, and consuming it from different ways. Now, like the way we have chosen to provide our critique is just a much more casual sort of discussion, because that's how we like to do it. And like but we still look at it in that particular way, and that never changes. The downside of working in, like, you know, reviews and whatnot is it forever breaks everything. Whatever movie you go and see, you start pulling it apart. You get a new album, you start listening to it, you start pulling it apart, or at least for me anyway. But at the same time, I love it too much.
Yeah.
It's exactly what my brain enjoys.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Like, Vinny and I have a unique dynamic as well. Like,
The free games are pretty sweet too, by the way.
that would be helpful.
Yeah,
but
yeah, that would be
again,
good.
the issue I have with that would be that I'm a physical collector, so I would probably buy these games anyway. I know I would. I 100% would. But Vinny and I think, similarly, like in similar in some ways and non in the other, in the sense that, like, we're obviously non-media based. We worked together in video game retail back in the day, over 10 years ago. And I've got a business background in sales. So that's kind of, it's funny. There was points in time where I'm like, I'm more interested in the industry and the way it works than actually the games themselves. And those things have kind of like joined the longer we've been doing this. So Vinny used to often laugh when we used to do some of our earlier shows. I'd come in with like a notepad full of stuff or a book full of things. He'd be like, and this year, this happened. So yeah.
When you used to go through the Sony quarterly reports, I'd be like, wow, this kid's well into it.
Yeah.
You can say, you're like, I think this guy's autistic, because, like, as an autistic individual, straight up, yeah, it's the best part about it. Yeah. Quarterly reports rule, man.
I've only got one thing.
Here, yeah.
Sorry, what was that, Vinny?
Everyone's a bit non-neurotypical here, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a reason where we all magnet to one another. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm on something. I just haven't figured out what that is yet. So maybe we'll.
Yeah, but you've gone this far.
Yeah, I've gone this far.
Yeah.
Why find out?
Took me
Find out.
33 years to do it. Max, how old are you?
Too old.
Yeah, he's like
36
36.
this year, I think.
Yeah. We've only just found out. There's still plenty of time.
Yeah.
What are you, Vinny? You're 34? So I'm the baby of the group.
Yeah, I'm 34.
I'm 31. So.
Oh.
Little Josh.
Little Josh Hostin.
Now, I did warn you guys, we do spin off into random conversations. I want to bring one thing up, and I think I can tie this into your last podcast, because Max did mention that he was at a wedding. And this is around, so I've got my son having his baptism later this month. And me and my wife are having the debate around the bomboneri. Do you guys know what a bomboneri is? The little gift that usually comes, like, with a wedding or with like a baptism or anything.
It's a fancy lolly bag.
Yeah, the fancy lolly bag.
Yeah,
sugar
the
almonds.
Yeah.
Thank you for making... Oh, sugar almonds, you lost me. You had me a lolly bag, and then the sugar almonds, you fucking lost me straight away. Could have got me.
Now...
No baptisms ever.
Yeah, well, we're having this...
I'm out now.
This conversation, this debate around the need to do this. Like, the need to... The idea that you think, as in we think, that our wedding or our son's baptism, which we all love him, and, the family might love this idea of the bomboneri, but it's like, if I went to a baptism of a family member or a friend, love them, love the kid, go you, and they give me this bomboneri, it is going into a drawer, and then in 10 years' time, I'm going to go look for something, discover said bomboneri. Where is it going, Vinny?
Going straight in the trash.
Straight in the trash. Why are we doing this?
Depends on what it is.
Okay. So we've, like being Italian as well, we go through the bomboneri phase of like all the wogs. You go to an event, you get a bomboneri, you do something. So we've gone to the consumable approach. So
Cookie.
what my sister did on her last kid's baptism was a sugar cookie. Just a single sugar cookie per person.
Yeah, okay.
Just one. That's it. Just one per person, with like the fondant, and it just says, yada yada, first baptism, whatever, like, baptism.
Thanks for coming.
And the other one, yeah. But then the other one did literally like bought the Aldi chocolate bars and just rewrapped them in like your own print, and then use that as a bomboneri. So it's like any consumable, I think, is a good approach. Don't get me like a freaking bottle opener or like a jar of something or a random candle. Like, I'm not going to use it.
What about rosary beads? Because that's what you're getting, Vinny.
You getting rosary beads?
Naomi got rosary beads. We've gone really traditional with it. But I agree. We've done cookies and we've done edible things. But it's like, even then, people keep it. But Max, what about you? Like, You've recently come to a wedding.
I've never been to a baptism that has given gifts to me. Actually, and actually, come to think of it, the last few weddings I've been to have not had them either.
Interesting.
Maybe it's going out of fashion.
Is
I
this
mean,
an
we
ethnic
had
thing?
one for our
Maybe?
wedding. My wife spent the majority of the day before our wedding making candles for everyone.
Wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't had one at an event in a hot minute.
Ryan, what about you? Because I kind of see it as in, if you, I went and saw All Time Low, right? A band.
Although I feel like if you were going to give one, bath bombs would be the way to go.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Or a water gun or something.
Fit the theme.
Yeah.
But
But
no, not water balloons. A bath bomb.
Okay, sorry.
Actually, water balloons also a
good idea.
Choice.
Yeah.
Great
You can
choice.
throw them at the baptized child at the end.
But it's the whole. But that's how you baptize the baby. Everyone gets a shot of whipping that water balloon across the church, right?
Yeah.
And whoever's the first to hit him,
Godparent.
there you go.
That's a great
That's
one.
it. You've gamified church.
Yep.
Now I'm interested in religion.
I'm just
This could
picturing
be
this
it.
poor child sitting in one of those carnival
Yeah, this
games
poor
where-
child's gonna have like balloon
Yeah.
trauma.
one of the dunk tank.
Yep.
I mean,
I was gonna have him like sitting in a little chair and everyone's just like lobbing it, like it's a piece of trash in a bin.
Wait, did everyone remember that image of in COVID where it was like the priest with the squirt gun out the window, like baptizing?
But that is awesome.
That is iconic.
But yeah, so like for myself, as a not like a just straight up not religious person, like I just don't care personally, but I love the tradition of it, right? Because that's the whole point of religion. It's these really cool little traditions. And as like a 9-generation just Australian white dude, like we don't have that culture of that either, which is something I always reflect upon, which I think is really kind of crap. To be like a certified, bona fide, nothing but Australian is really boring. Our culture sucks. So to
lot
like
of
have
people-
like an Italian root or something to work off of, like that's sick. I just make those two little things. But if you can find ways to personalize it, like you mentioned with the little chocky bars or whatever, it means it's less likely that I'm gonna put it somewhere in that venue before I even leave. Like
That's what I do.
if it's not something that I'm gonna remember, it's going in a pot plant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
Sorry.
realised there's a bombonera behind me of a candle from the last baptism we went to. See? It was
Have
like
you lit it?
No, you don't. I don't think you light it.
What does it smell like?
Candle.
Yeah, but like vanilla, like
I would assume vanilla, based on the
Sandalwood.
color.
sandal.
But I did warn you. See what I mean? I bet you didn't plan to talk about baptisms.
No,
and-
but at the same time, like my immediate thought is it's kind of a silly idea, right? Like, why do you want to remember some random ass person's baptism? But then in my lounge room, like I have this big shelf. I call it my wall of memories, right? Because a downside of my brain is I'm incredibly forgetful. Like I remember really unimportant PlayStation shit, but like actual life events, gone. So to have a wall that's like all the things very similar to this, right? All the things I love the most. So when I walk in that room, I can look at it and I go, oh my God, I remember that. That would be perfect for the wall of memories, right? Because I even have a little section for my son. This is all the cool things he's ever done and made for me. So like, yeah, I guess if it was, like a wedding of someone that's really important to me, I would want to have that on there.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Huh.
Interesting.
No, actually, look, to your credit, as I said, would have I ever thought having this conversation? No. I'd never would have I thought that I'd have my opinion changed on the assorted crap you can get at like various family events. I'm happy with that.
Oh, perfect. Vinny, if I die, I want the Jim Ryan cookie, the one that they gave out when London Studios, right before they closed. I want that as my
Okay.
dominary. So I'll leave that in your hands. But speaking of
done.
video games, I mean, that's the best segue I've got. Let's get into the games we've been playing. Now, thank you for providing your list. We're going to do this very strategically so we don't double
You know who
up.
didn't? Vinny. At
Yeah,
least the
very late.
document we saw.
So this is the replacement scheme. I think that's what's
You
happening.
know who technically didn't? Me. You did on my behalf.
Yeah, I just guessed.
He's guessed.
Was he right?
Close.
Close.
You're-
Vinny, we'll start with you. What have you been spending your last week or so playing?
Oh man! So I'm telling you, the best $4.50 I ever spent was buying this TMNT Splintered Fate on the Switch 2. For you guys don't know, I'm a massive Hades fan. Like that game came out at the right time during lockdown, and
I
smashed
listen.
it.
I'm aware.
Huge
Max
Greek mythology
doesn't.
fan.
Max couldn't care
Huge Greek
less.
mythology fan. And then when Hades 2 came out, I was all over it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I needed a little bit of a roguelike in between and just like a quick game because I did want to pick up Pragmata, I did want to pick up Saros, but I just need I need that weak buffer.
Mhm.
And this game has been it. Other than that, playing League of Legends, started Majora's Mask with my girlfriend. Oh, well, we're planning to start Majora's Mask, but that's going to be the next game. We tried playing it once before. The game is way too confusing. But what I ended up doing is I ended up buying. Okay, so I'm going a little tangent. So I told my girlfriend, I'm like, well, if the game's too confusing and everyone says that it's really, really good, but you need a guide to play this game for Majora's Mask, I'm like, that kind of seems a bit annoying because it doesn't mean it's that good. But I said, we're going to play it an old school game. Let's do it the old school way. So I bought the Majora's Mask strategy guide, like the N64 one. So I said, we're going to play 2-player. I'm going to be like, whoever's not using the controller is going to be having the guide, and the person is not allowed to look at the guide if you have a controller. That's going to be the rule. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic because she is not a very good
illiterate.
She's a massive Legend of Zelda fan, and she does not. She's also a bit of a control freak. So playing Ocarina of Time, that she knows cover to cover for the first half of the game, I was doing something like a wacko, and she was being like, "You're doing it wrong." She's like, "Give me the controller." I was like, "Oh, nope, calm down."
I'm now just in my mind picturing her in the background. Hey, listen.
Hey, listen.
Yeah, Navi.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. Other than that, I played a D&D one-shot, which I think is kind of worth talking about. I had my first D&D campaign down in Fortress. So I've tried to play D&D before, tried hosting. Oh, hello.
Hello. And goodbye.
And goodbye. So I tried hosting one. It got too bad with scheduling conditions, trying to manage a team of like 6 or 7 people. But
that's way too many. That's way too many for a table.
6 or 7 novices as well. It was it was a bad time. But this one was like, it was me and my girlfriend and 2 of her friends, and we had like a very advanced dungeon master do the one-shot campaign of Fortress. It was very eccentric, very like out there, very good storytelling. And it was awesome. For like the 3.5 hours you were there, you really like sold us on the idea of this campaign. And I want to definitely do it again. But Josh, I reckon you should definitely do a D&D one-shot.
No, well, you know.
I reckon you would enjoy it. I reckon you'd find it actually very entertaining.
So, fun fact about me, Ryan Max. For someone who loves video games and loves the industry of the video game industry so much, I have no connection to industry events. Not a big Comic-Con guy, not a PAX guy, not really. I like to do it in my private, like it's my own little thing. When I'm around people around it, I'm like, I don't know. But there would be a funny idea of me trying to do this. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
Tabletop role-playing games are fun, man. You should definitely give it a try. We're currently in scheduling hell with ours. We're lucky, though. We've got a dedicated DM who actually created his own game system. Where he's got 4 fairly hardcore D&D players at his table, and he's relearning or reteaching us how to play a tabletop role-playing game as we try and break his rule systems completely open. So that's been fun.
Well, keep it to you, Max. Specifically,
I was going to say, if you want to talk about like the D&D side of life, like for a window of time, it was my literal job to do it. So many years ago, about 5 or so years ago, myself and my colleague and my mate who became my colleague, Paris Conti, together we created a program here in Geelong that uses like video games and tabletop role-playing games as a way to help youth and young adults that are like, you know, like mental health challenges or neurodiverse or psychosocial disabilities. So we used gaming hobbies to help them understand themselves, the world around them, to work on skills, build connection, and so on and so on. So my role within the project was the more video gaming side, similar to yourself, Josh, but I then learnt and very much deeply appreciate tabletop role-playing games and their incredible power for more than just a fun experience. Like you can replicate, outside world activities. You can practice social situations for those that may have social anxiety, to like go in and practice what it's like to talk to that games master as if it's that person at the shop that you're too scared to talk to. And so on and so on. Or it's a great way to understand yourself because your character's doing all these choices, you aren't. But then you can decide how much of yourself you put into that character. You can create the ultimate version of you. You can create the worst version of you. You can learn so much through as a medium. So, yeah, like it's fantastic. And to hear that you're playing with your partner as well, that's awesome. You're gonna have a really good time. I'm in the process of I Humble Bundle did a thing a couple months ago where they're like, hey, here's all of the Fallout tabletop role-playing game.
Oh, cool.
And I bought it for like next to fucking nothing. And then the couple weeks later, I just randomly went into Cash Converters here in Geelong, and they had the base set, and I picked it up for $20. So I got all the dice, I got all the tokens, I got all the bits and pieces that we ever need. I just want to make it happen. I think Fallout seems like a really fun world to fuck with. So
I didn't know Fallout had a tabletop base.
I think everything's got. I've seen a Bloodborne.
Yeah, most
one,
things do
Last of
these
Us
days.
does,
Yeah. I've seen Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, like Baldur's Gate.
I vaguely remember you playing a wrestling TTRPG at one point.
Absolutely, yeah, we did. So, being a big wrestling fan, I bought that into work. I found a wrestling based one, and it's a lot. There are dice involved, but it was a lot more about the storytelling and the imagination and the creativity of it all. The dice was just to be like, yeah, sure, just decide like who would change hands, but. I've not really messed with D&D too much specifically. We used a rule set called Savage Worlds because there's a lot more creative freedom in terms of storytelling, and it has this really great feature that I loved where it's called hindrances and edges. So in order to prevent what can happen very quickly in D&D, where you suddenly just become this absolute power vacuum and you are just like the fucking bee's knees, with Savage Worlds, by having edges and hindrances, so your edges are the things that you are really good at, but for every edge you have, you must have a hindrance, which is something you are bad at. And you get to pick and choose what they are, so you could really purpose build a character. Like one of the ones that I really enjoyed, one of our clients made back in the day, was they were the best marksman. Like there's a near impossible chance that they would miss, but they have bad eyes. They have poor eyesight. Yeah. So they had to have a companion or another player point it out. If they were able to successfully point out where that person was, it's a guaranteed shot because their edge would, like, they are the fucking best. So like it kind of creates interesting ways to tell a story that aren't just go in, be strong, punch everything, and congratulations, you've done it. But yeah,
I'll stick to Monopoly for now, and we'll work our way up.
Yeah.
But Max, we'll go to you next, specifically around Diablo and Slay the Spire, because I think the other games there being Saros and then Pragmata for you, Ryan, and Saros as well, kind of go to what I've been playing as well. But yeah, Max, take it away.
So I've been playing Slay the Spire for the better part of, I want to say about 2-3 weeks now. I was a huge fan of the first one when they released it back in... it would have been about 5 or so years ago now, I think. And they kind of went, hey, we're just going to keep updating the first game. And their publisher's like, no, you should make a number 2. So they did. So it's essentially the same game. It is a roguelike with a deck building mechanic. So depending on what class you play will determine which cards you are allowed to have in your deck. And then you are just trying to get as far up the spire as you can, killing enemies, doing random events and the likes along the way, whilst trying to maintain some form of theme to your deck that will work together. The only thing that they've really added in this game that wasn't in the first one was they added co-op now. So the way it works for co-op is you can play with up to 4 people. and everyone takes their turn at once. So you kind of need to be able to talk to your teammates, because you can set up vulnerabilities to make your teammates deal extra damage to the creatures, or you can, give them energy to spend more cards for their turn, and then the enemies will all take their turn at once. They do give little icons above their head as to what the enemies intend to do, whether it be like a buff or a debuff, or if they're going to do straight damage to you, and then you kind of adjust accordingly. So I've been having a blast with that. As for Diablo 4, in a moment of weakness 2 days ago, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I've been playing Path of Exile 2 as my main Diablo style game. But on Friday of last week, they released the Vessel of Hatred, I think it was, is the latest DLC, with 2 new characters, the Paladin and the Warlock. And I'm like, I could try something new. I picked up both DLCs in a pack, and I actually just finished the new campaign as of last night. A lot shorter than the original campaign, because it's just a single act as opposed to the 3 or 4 acts that were in the first game. The new characters are fun. It's more Diablo. You are killing millions upon millions of enemies. I've just reached the late game, and now I'm just getting a ton of tutorial boxes on what I'm supposed to do next. So I haven't kind of hit that point yet, but Diablo's still Diabloing.
Still doing its thing.
Yeah.
Still doing its thing, and it still does it very, very well. I will point out that Blizzard are so on point with their narrative in-game cutscenes. They are just so immaculately done, and just watching those alone was worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll wrap up the conversation with Saros. We'll jump to Pragmata. Now, we've spoken about Pragmata here on the show as well, and I know you guys have on For the Players. So, interested more in feelings around the game. We've kind of spoken about in the past, the style of game it is and the hacking mechanics. So, our audience is kind of across the game mechanics. But I've recently finished Pragmata. I know, Max, you have. Ryan, have you? No? Okay.
Have you made any progress since we recorded on Sunday?
Yes.
Because you were 5 or 6 hours in, but you were 100%ing as you went, if I recall correctly.
Yeah. Being a big weirdo about it. Yeah.
And obviously, Ryan, we spoke about on your show when I made my appearance around this game, and you're like, oh, this is something I didn't think I'd be quite interested in at the time, and I've seen a trailer, and then I was like, oh man, this is the game that Crimson Desert's getting booted for. But yeah, I've finished Pragmata, and I wouldn't say I've come around on the game, because I've always really liked it. But what I did come around on was the story. And again, no spoilers here, but I think, Max, we were kind of tweeting back and forth, and I had this like weird kind of initial feeling around Diana and Hugh's relationship, where it's like Hugh is set up at the beginning of the game, literally like some of his first lines is like, oh yeah, I don't really like kids. And it's like, all right, this is kind of doing the expected, like, I don't want kids, I don't like kids, I meet a kid, I fall in love with kid. And then him and Diana just like instantly connect. And then to me, that kind of seemed a little awkward, and that kind of threw me out of the experience initially. But as the game went on, I felt like their relationship became more and more real. To the point where by the end of the game, I was like, this is a really great new IP, and Capcom have hit it out the park, and this is my current front runner for Game of the Year. Max, from a story perspective, I know you've spoken about the gameplay as well as the story in the past. Did you find that disconnect, or did you kind of connect with these guys, all these characters, pretty quickly?
Yes and no. So for me, it went from it was more of a. It wasn't that he instantly enjoyed or instantly felt for this kid. It felt more like at the start she was a means to an end, and then all Diana's little quirks,
idiosyncrasies.
Yeah, idiosyncrasies. Thank you. All of those kind of grew on him, and as he let his guard down and let her in, that's when the relationship grew. And I think they did a fantastic job of growing those two characters both individually and together as a unit.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, ultimately to the end.
Chef's kiss. Now, Ryan, now you mentioned the
Yes.
Space God of War thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know you have a liking to the dynamic of parent and child. And you've spoken about that in the past. And I had a similar experience in the sense that when I finished the game and rolled credits, my son happened to just come into the room and just like sit with me as the credits were rolling. And I'm like, oh, this is different. This is the first. You often talk about the PlayStation sad dad game, right? This is like they call it like a glad dad game because he's happy to be there.
That is good.
Yeah, I saw that somewhere online. And this is the first time playing a game where the dynamic of parent and child exists in a world where I now have kids. So where that similar experience with God of War, this is kind of my event of that happening. So I can't stop singing the praises of this game. Vinny, I will give you my copy. You need to play this. But Ryan,
Yeah.
How did you feel? How did you find the dynamic? Because it is different, right? Like, it is different to Kratos and Atreus or Ellie and Joel. It is very different in tone and style, and it's a bit more over the top initially, but then kind of softens out. But how did you find that character relationship?
Well, I talked about it in our show this week. I really applaud Capcom for making a conscious choice to have an individual that is emotionally like the idea is like, yes, he is emotionally closed off to children, but he's not an asshole. Like when you see Hugh, he's like, it's not as if like, oh, I don't like kids, because the easy storytelling path would be make him disgruntled, make him closed off, not quite like Kratos, because that dynamic's a little deeper and different in a different way, but very similar to like Joel and Ellie, right? As Max said, they are a means to an end. He goes, I'm doing this because I have to. Where in Hugh, I see someone going, I'm not into kids, which is a good sentiment to have in general. But also I'm not into having a child, but choosing to look after them because that's the right thing to do. And then as you hear more about his upbringing and his experiences, when you learn about his family dynamic and you realize his family dynamic is also built on of, it's no obligation. We're doing it because we want to. Spoilers, Vinny, he's adopted. It's a small little drop of a much bigger story. But like in that, you get the understanding of his parents. They didn't have to take him on, but they did. And it's that replicates in Diana.
And it also mirrors parenthood, right? Like, not a lot of people who have kids initially wanted kids. So it's not like me, I never not wanted kids, but I never thought about the idea of having kids until it happened. So like
I was told I couldn't until I did. Yeah. So
perspective changes, right? And then when you've got this child, and in this case Diana, I actually really appreciate the dynamic because it is a lot more real. You don't have to have this like hatred to the idea of kids. But most people do have they don't really either think about it, or if they have thought about it, they kind of don't see themselves doing it, and then it happens, and then it changes. And very similar, that happens with Diana and Hugh. So yeah, I agree.
And on top of that, it does really show the better parts of being a parent, I guess, because like there is a lot of hard stuff of being a parent. Like, it's not all rainbows and awesome experiences, but they've really managed to capture all those little moments of connection that you get with your child, like the little pictures or the little comments or the questions, and just the insane shit that they'll just come out with sometimes. Or then you'll realize that they've taken on board something you've said before, or their little high five, like those things. That's the beautiful part of being a parent. And it is, as you said, like I'm a sucker for a sad dad simulator, right? Because it's just me in games. But it's also nice to have a story that means well, and it's a lot. Like I'm trying to find an interesting way to explain it. What I find these days is it's very difficult to find things that are truly sincere. And I feel in the way they're telling the story here in Pragmata, it's quite sincere. Like, so much so that people are trying to be gross about the dynamic between the two of them, and the game's like, nope.
No. Yeah.
This is exactly what it is. They're not trying. There's it's not like super down the cliche of like everyone should have kids. Like it doesn't have a message per se outside of like shitting on AI, I suppose. But then also kind of letting it feel, a lot nicer at its core. Yeah, there's not a big moment of trauma that exactly, it feels human, and that's makes it even funnier that you're spending the whole time talking to an AI.
And you're in space. And the boss battles, Chef's Kiss. And I believe this is a younger spin-off team of the Devil May Cry team as well. So, I mean, you can...
But to go on off the first thing you said, right? Like you didn't have to be brought back around to Pragmata. I did. I dismissed this game immediately. Like back in the original state of play, I was like, this sucks. The voice of Diana is an immediate, like, under any other circumstance, under any other game, and I've now become accustomed to it. I'm okay with it. That's an immediate. Yeah. Like anime voices makes me want to like pull throats out because you like talk normal.
Yeah.
But I understand it, because it's the overemphasis. I have a whole other theory around ASD and anime and why they're so perfectly aligned for one another. But yeah, so that was the first thing that threw me off in the original trailer. I was like, and then it looked a little bit Soulsy sort of gameplay. I'm like, Max game.
And I went, it's sci-fi, not a Max game.
Not a Max game.
So I went,
and it's currently my game of the year.
And I'm heading in the same boat. Like as of right now, there's nothing else that sort of hit me in the same way. But knowing full well with the roasting the glasses of like it's made for me in terms of it's story driven. It's parental sort of connected. And it's like a nice, good, happy, sad.
Yeah, 100%.
Without the cynicism. Yeah.
I was gonna say, Josh, when you messaged me saying, "Hey, this is a must play," actually, yesterday I went to go to my local shopping center to go trade in 2 games because I still have physical media, and I'm in that point now where it's like my game collection is, if it's not retro, I'm just gonna keep recycling it because I get more value out of that. So I was gonna trade in Metroid Prime 4 and Dragon Quest 7, which I finished. I was like, 2 games. I'm just yeah. It was a I had to work for that ending. It was a bit of a chore, but I was gonna trade in those 2 games to my local EB. Went there, wasn't there anymore.
Yeah,
the EB.
The EB, just shut down.
Shit. I was like, we had a comment on one of our recent video episodes from one of our long-term listeners. They mentioned that they've gone to try pick up a physical copy of Pragmata and it's not there.
Yeah.
I thought that's where I thought you were going. I didn't think I went to EB Games and it was
gone.
Yeah, well, I tried to go to I went to Target, went to JB, just no copies. Yeah. So I guess I'm gonna have to wait for Josh's copy to borrow, or I'll just wait till they're back in stock.
Yeah, I pre-order, like, I'm pretty safe in terms of pre-ordering games. I do this thing every year, guys, where I like pre-order the year's games that I want. And I'm talking like thousands of dollars. So I just do my deposits. Yeah, and then I cancel if the game doesn't turn out the way I want or whatever. But there is so many instances where it's like they only stock a limited amount of these games. And they're pretty flexible. Like EB's mostly flexible with price matching and then canceling pretty quickly. So
I'd forget if I was to pre-order a whole year's worth of Amazon got me earlier this year. I think I ordered one of the Final Fantasy art books like 2 years in advance. And then when I got charged for it, I called my bank and went, someone stole my credit card. And then the book showed up. I'm like, oh, that's what it was for. I remember that.
Yeah. I think mine's the OCD
like,
kicking
in. Can you pay us now?
Like, need to know that I've got these secured. But let's wrap up.
See, for us, we normally a couple of days before Max goes, "Wait, can you email someone?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, probably should do that."
Yeah.
I just forget.
And then 3 days later, you sent that email yet? No,
not yet.
It is interesting because I guess for us, for the longest time, like I know it sounds like we are coming from a very privileged place. Is that's not something that we've had to think about in a very long time. Like the idea of not, because we've by the nature of what we do, we've both become digital only at this point. Either way,
the last game I pre-ordered was Elden Ring.
Yeah.
Like
I can't tell you the last physical game I bought.
Yeah.
I literally could not tell you.
Oh,
I don't think I bought a single PS5.
It was my last physical game that I purchased.
Saros. Let's move on to Saros, and then I think what we're going to do, we'll jump straight into the big topic of the show. But Saros, I'll maybe start off here. I've only put in an hour into the game. Saros is the next game out of Housemarque, the spiritual successor to Returnal. Yeah, interested to hear your guys' impressions. I know, Max, you finished it. But I, like I said, only have put in an hour. But from what I've played, it's more Returnal, which is both really good, and it would be disappointing if this was any other game. Like, in the sense that it is more of what came before. But given how unique Returnal was, and I was singing the praises for Returnal, that game got snubbed from the Game of the Year awards. That and Metroid Dread, never forget. It's more Returnal. It seems to be leaning in more towards the Sony style of, like, now having a bit more of a front-facing story and NPCs to interact with. They seem to have gone, what was all the feedback from Returnal? Okay, it's super hard. Wasn't really a lot of progression. There wasn't a lot of, like, front-facing story. It was all kind of locked behind text and audio logs, and it was kind of this ethereal thing, which I actually really liked. I thought the Returnal story, once you actually understood what it was and got through to the true endings and things like that, was, like, really compelling. Where this game seems to be, from, again, the first hour, a little bit more story focused. I wouldn't say story heavy, but just focused. That you're talking to NPCs, you're hearing, audio chatter during your runs. But they seem to have, like, started to check off the items that maybe were the feedback from Returnal. And I've already noticed where, again, in my first hour, I've done, like, the initial run where you die, and that's kind of the point. Come back, and then I've done my first run. And finished that run, obviously got killed, and then had these materials where I can upgrade my character, Arjun. I think you guys were doing this as well. What's his name?
It's Arjun Devraj.
Arjun, that's right. And the upgrade system seems very open-ended. It's focused around, like, 3 core metrics: your health, your damage, and then I think your ability to achieve a higher rank in your runs, which allows you to unlock better weapons and things like that whilst you're having your run. But yeah, interested particularly in Max and Ryan, given that you've spent more time in the game. Max specifically finished it. Maybe I'll jump to you first, Ryan, and then we'll finish up with Max. How have you found Saros so far?
I think I'm really enjoying it, but I'm very aware that I talked about this on the show as well. When we first originally reviewed Returnal, the first week, we did 1 week and then the follow up the next week, I was like, this is dope. I literally said, yeah, Returnal is dope. This game's fantastic. Cut to the next week, fuck this game. Because, mostly very much in terms of my own skill gap, though. Like, that is knowing full well that it is me that is the issue in this scenario. Because at the time, that was not a genre that I was really proficient in, nor I understood how to properly play within it, but also is just way out of my skills. Where Returnal, I find, is an actual good step down. Saros. In that you could step from Saros into Returnal if you wanted to. As you said, it takes all the feedback that's the Housemarque have seem to have got with Returnal, and they've added it in there, but not in a way that takes away from the core of what Housemarque do, and particularly what they've established with Returnal. It's really nice, sort of like meat on the bones. Like, it's not you're not just because they've added all this accessibility, it's not at a detriment to the overall experience. Now, you could tweak it and whatever, and make it a complete disruption of your experience, of that planned experience. But for me, it really affirmed that I am a fan of light, not roguelikes. Like, roguelikes are just too unforgiving.
I'm the same. I feel like I'm not getting anywhere.
Exactly. In the same way that I really can't deal with Soulsborns 2, because I don't have the attention span and the just the wherewithal to take it like Max does. Where the idea that even if I'm not successful on the run, I can at least upgrade some things that might make it easier. I really applaud the slower rollout of weapons in Saros compared to Returnal, as it's allowing me to get familiar with it and deciding whether it's one I want to mess with, rather than the RNG of it all completely screwing you like it would in Returnal. Like, I remember getting some gun, I'm not sure which one it was off the top of my head, but I'm like, this sucks. but because I've already selected it, it's now part of the pool, and it will forever keep rocking up. So there are some runs where I come out and it's the first thing. I'm like, cool,
Yep, I'm screwed.
great. I'm glad I can do this run now. Where that initial roadblock is, it's like, yeah, that's gone. Like there's still a hurdle. Like it's not to completely remove the wall, but the wall is lower enough for you to step over it, and then you're lured into it to when it becomes harder, rather than it's hard now, persist. It's yeah. That's the way I see it anyway.
Max, I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Specifically, you've detailed your experience with the game on For the Players. So if you haven't checked that out, check that out. I'm more interested in your view on a specific mechanic that I haven't encountered yet, but I have seen. And I think you may have even touched on it on your show. And that was the idea of like altering your runs with like these... I don't even know how you would...
The Caucasian modifiers.
The modifiers, turning things on and off, which is making the games easier and harder. That seems to be the most, like, egregious attempt to fix something that maybe was a feedback on Returnal. How did you find that, like...
It's a really...
Yeah, go.
It's a really cool addition. I feel like that if it was added for an accessibility thing so more people would be able to enjoy their game, it felt weird to lock it behind the second world boss. It's like you have to play on hard mode until here, and then once you're used to playing on hard, you can just be like, nah, I just want to do easy. I feel like that could still be a bit of a roadblock for some people. It's also not very balanced. So I did talk about it on our show a bit, but for example... If it uses a number system, so depending on what perk you want to put on as a positive, it'll add 1 to 6, I believe, on the scale. But they're not... How they equalize it doesn't seem fair. So, for instance, if you put on, I want to deal more damage to all enemies, and I want to take less damage from all enemies, the scale will swing hard in your favor. And then all you have to give up is, this is the amount of currency I take out when I die.
Yeah. And you're dying less because of the result of that.
And then it goes levels. And because you can kill more things and you die less, your runs go longer. And that detriment of my materials aren't worth as much doesn't really make that much of a difference anymore. I found that in this game, beating bosses felt less rewarding.
Because of that.
Than in Returnal. Because of using the modifiers, or I found that a lot of runs, there's a lot of things that you can do to kind of game the RNG system. So one of the artifacts you get quite early in the game allows you to, it basically says, find more items that are similar to what you already have. So you're going to get the same type of guns every time, and they're just going to get better and better as you progress through. And some of the guns are ridiculously broken. Like one of the first things I mentioned when I started playing this game is, wow, the auto aim is crazy strong.
Yeah.
Because you just have to shoot in the general direction of someone and it's gonna hit. There are some weapons that don't use this. I think they call it the smart firing or the smart targeting system. And even those guns, if you slow down a little bit to take aim, they are they're compensated by being ridiculously powerful because they don't auto aim. So there's always a positive to the detriment of whatever they've thrown at you.
Yeah.
So it is more fair in a sense than what Returnal was, but at the same time it felt less gratifying and rewarding for getting further, because you were like, is it my skill or is the game kind of giving me a gimme?
Yeah. No, interesting. I'm interested to see how I feel about that at the end. I'm kind of like, if it's there, I'm going to use it, but we'll see. All right, well, let's move on and let's maybe jump ahead to our like major topics of discussion. Vinny, I'm going to go to you first. Where do you want to start? Do we start with the boys in blue, or do we go to the green side of the aisle? Where would you like to begin?
Let's go with the boys in blue. Let's stick to the run sheet, you know?
Oh, look at you, man of order. And we are joined by For the Players, the PlayStation podcast, so it would only make sense to hear it straight from the horse's mouth. So what we wanted to do here is kind of our main topic of discussion, is kind of doing a State of the Union address, kind of check in with PlayStation and Xbox, talk all things around what's working, what's not working, what's coming up, next generation, PS6 and Project Helix, and where we're kind of seeing these brands going over the time. Vinny, we'll start with you. PlayStation's generation so far. What's your gut telling you in terms of how PS5 is doing since launch in 2020?
Here's the thing, like I'm in two minds about it because my gut, like you can look at the numbers and says that it's doing well. It's one of the most profitable generations they've ever had, but from like a gut like sense check, it just doesn't feel like it's there for me, and that's probably like my gimmick of my time spread around PC, Nintendo, and then PS5 is like across all three. But it almost feels like we shouldn't be at the point about we're talking about the next generation yet. Like it feels like there's a lot of games. There's a lot of games on this thing, but for some reason for me it just feels incomplete. And that's hitting the stuff of Naughty Dog hasn't had a game yet. There's a few heavy hitters. I was like, I'd expect to see, if we had a Ratchet & Clank game at the start of generation, I would have expected to see one mid-tier, but we know Insomniac's working on other things.
Yeah.
Like, my sense check is, it's okay. But profitability, it's there. It's one of the most successful times I've ever had it. But the money isn't coming from the games itself. It's coming from their Fortnite, Roblox.
Yeah. They're less reliant
GTA
on
Online.
first party and more on the Sinister Six, as some people call them, Fortnite, Call of Duty, and others. But I think that's a common feeling, this incompleteness of the generation. Ryan, how are you feeling about PS5? Being someone who plays, I would dare say, exclusively on the system,
Near exclusively,
as I do as well. I tried PC. I downloaded Game Pass on PC, played a game for 2 minutes, something crashed. I'm like, I'm just going to buy this on PlayStation 5. Unsubscribed, got my money back. But anyway.
I still play a bit of PC. That's where all my my beloved weird simulators live. So
Yep.
yeah, they play like crap commonly on console. But in terms of the PlayStation, where they stand in the generation right now, the word that I would use to explain it would be hampered. But in very similar to what you were saying, Vinny. In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. Like I would say, hampered in terms of creative output. And I do think that is an extension of some bad decisions. That's also an extension of COVID as well, and that we all feel and experience time really differently now. There's no way to explain it, but we all do. Time is just different. And but the hamper doesn't work for. Oh, actually, no, in a business sense, it kind of does as well. By having no competitor or no actively strong competitor, they are just winning. So they're hampered in their ability to fight and compete, where the best creative decisions come from competition. When you have complete swing of it, you are just going by the numbers. And that's what we've been seeing from PlayStation in general. I know we'll get into more specifics in a moment, but yeah, for me, it's hampered. The decision, obviously COVID really fucked shit up at the start. Sorry, I swear a lot, by the way.
That's
I do
okay.
apologize.
No, don't apologize.
So it started with like the very difficult rollout, but once that started flowing, PS5s are everywhere because of just Xbox's whole thing at that time. Then you've got the decision, the good idea but poor execution of games as a service, and understanding there's a need for that, but incorrectly delivering and working with what they had, which in turn hampered the regular releases that we're seeing. And then in turn, we're now here in this post world where it feels like there's a lot of playing catch up. But that's the world at large feels like it's playing catch up.
Yeah, it's a real unique thing because, and we've said this, right? In some ways, PS5 is more successful than ever. Like they're right behind PS4 in terms of sales aligned, and with GTA 6 launching this year, it's probably very much likely that PS5 will outsell PS4 when time adjusted, and taking into account how more expensive the PS5 is. Where in this point in time, PS4 has obviously been discounted, as most generations do. But I generally agree that the sentiment around the generation is something that there is something lacking and missing. And in some ways, it's Sony at fault. In other ways, it's just the way that game development is now. Like, we're never going to return to the time of the PS3 where Naughty Dog had Uncharted 1, 2, 3, and Last of Us in a generation. The games are just built on a different scale and size now, and the expectation's so much greater. I think I remember reading, like, the original Uncharted trilogy were made for, like, $10-20 million each, where you look at a game like Last of Us Part 2, I think the expected budget was like $220 million. So the amount of time, effort, and money being thrown into these games and how long they're taking to develop just really shifts the scale in terms of how frequently we're getting first-party games, thus the feeling of the generation feeling incomplete is there. But that is balanced, in my opinion, on, I think, a really strong generation of games generally. I think Vinny and I had an episode very early on in the show around, like, the golden era of video games, and Vinny was quite surprised that I had said we're living in it, as opposed to, like, the easy answer for me would be the PS3 generation, which is, like, my favorite generation. But, we're living in a world where you're getting, rolling out of Pragmata into Saros, into 007, into, like, every month I've just got this list of games that I pre-ordered that I'm expecting to be of a certain quality. And in most cases they are. I find myself with less time than ever, but wanting to play more than ever. We're getting games on the higher end AAA scale that are fantastic and great and compelling, but then we're also getting some really endearing AA games, like Expedition 33 is that great example. And then on the other end of that, we also have these indie titles that are filling in the gaps between these big releases. So I think for Sony themselves, we have a view of the brand based in a point in time where we were getting more first-party releases because they were releasing every 2 to 3 years. PlayStation as a brand, specifically PS1, 2, to some degree, was mostly reliant on third-party games with some, like, key key first-party games in there, like Gran Turismo, Crash Bandicoot, which is kind of second-party, but you know what I mean, at the time. And we're reliant on, like, the random third-party stuff that you'd play on your PlayStation 1, like Symphony of the Night and others, right? So I agree that there is this lacking feeling from first-party specifically, which is impacting my feeling on the generation so far. But when I look at my library of games that I've played on PS5, I'm enjoying this generation far more than I did on the PS4. And that was a generation that had really good first-party output. So it's kind of like this unique balancing of the two. Max, I don't know, where do you kind of land on it? What's your view of it?
Look, you've all covered it really well. I mean, as Ryan and yourself pointed out, due to the pandemic, this generation didn't start until 4 years into its generation. It feels now like we're looking. They're talking rumors of next gen consoles as early as late this year, early next year, and it feels like PS5's kind of just hit its stride. A lot of the early titles did release on PS4 as well as PS5, and like you said, we haven't had those huge first party teams come out and kind of release their big hitters yet. And you look at all these cancellations, like Naughty Dog had their game cancelled, and it looked like from all reports it was basically done. And well, we'll never know, unfortunately. But if it's anything to go by, the first Last of Us multiplayer was absolutely fantastic. I could only think that they would improve it over time. But it's this weird, as Ryan put it, they had no real competition, so there was no drive to better themselves. It feels like they've just kind of been running on cruise control for the last few years, and then they've with the hot mess that games as a service and kind of Jim Ryan's legacy left behind, without knowing what was the thought process behind that of like, hey, we've kind of won this generation, let's go crazy and see what happens with this. But then all the games of a service that we saw were all the same games. It's like, why are you making games of a service that are all the one game type? It's just people don't play multiple games of a service. You're shooting yourself in the foot at one point here if any of these happen to take off. And unfortunately for them, none of them have at the moment. and you're looking at Fire Sprite is not looking like it's going to go anywhere anytime soon. They recently had betas, and the feedback has not been great from what reporting shows.
Are you
It'll be
talking
interesting
about
to see,
Haven's
Haven's
Haven's game? I think.
yeah.
Oh
Fair
my
Game.
God, Fair Games with the dollar
Yeah.
sign, and that's the one that's been having the betas go on, or alphas. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see where they go from here, and it'll be interesting to see that if when their next generation does roll around, how quickly they will shift from PS5 support to just doing PS6. Again, the global pandemic kind of screwed them at one point, and like you said, GTA 6 will also be a big one to drive the last of their sales home for PlayStation 5. So
Yeah, and I'm interested. We'll touch on as we get into PS6 discussion around the cross generation support that we've seen PS5 and 4 and how that will play out in PS6. But I guess sticking with you, Max, you touched on games as a service, cancellation of projects. How do you what's your feel on how Sony's approached games as a service and the impact that it's had on their teams? Like, we've obviously seen cancellations, but how perhaps would you have done it differently? Maybe as a touching point, starting base.
I mean, how I would have approached it differently. Don't make them all shooters.
Yeah.
Just change it up a little bit. Have one games as a service that could be
Like our old critiques back in the day of PlayStation needs to make shooters. We didn't mean like this though.
Yeah,
I mean, like give us another Resistance.
Give us more Killzone. Like
the issue was that they were chasing what was hot at the time. Like, you've got a ton of hero shooters. I'm surprised they didn't try a battle royale. To a degree,
twist for The Last of Us, by the way.
Last of Us was going to be a survival game. Like, they were all something that had already been done and have already been done well. I feel like they tried to jump into that too late to kind of ride those coattails. So yeah, to bring it back to board games, you could do a legacy style, make a Baldur's Gate like, and have the games as a service be different campaigns to play through as you progress. Bungie for all the trouble they had at the back end of Destiny 2, like, that was a solid games as a service game until it wasn't. And then I feel like Sony was just trying to play catch up with the games as a service. They didn't try to reinvent the wheel, but they weren't thinking outside the box, but they were just right up against the edge of it to try and I think they just got to it too late.
Yeah. Ryan,
they picked a poor time to try it, and it's kind of bit them.
What about you, Ryan? You mentioned the hampered generation, and I think if you look through the timeline, obviously Sony announced that these 12 games as a service happening, and there was also the ABK acquisition happening at the same time. So there's probably some fear internally at Sony around what does this mean for, at the time, Call of Duty and other big titles releasing on PlayStation. Perhaps this pressure to go, okay, we need to own our own Call of Duty, we need our own shooter, we need this, and that. And we saw Sony make these major acquisitions. So in terms of these decisions for games as a service and business decisions and how that's hampered the generation, like, how would you have perhaps done it slightly differently as well? Like, do you agree with Max, or would you have perhaps approached it a different way? Would you have invested as heavy into games as a service? How would you have done that?
Yeah, very similar to Max. Couple things that the way I look at it. Yeah, so I'm not the only person to have this opinion, but the idea is great, right? The idea of PlayStation their willingness to try to meet a demand, right? Not a bad thing, right? Especially when, as you mentioned, the Sinister Six, there's all these different key games that aren't the ones that they make, that are designed to be these forever games to keep going and going and going. Because over time, that is becoming the standard, and that is also where the money is made. And as these developments balloon, the money has to come from somewhere. And, the cost of paying for a game at the shop is relatively same to what it was X amount of years ago.
Yeah.
But with just the general demand on and expectations on these games is it's not making enough. So they're looking at other ways. Speaking of looking at other ways, the biggest issue that I have and what I would have done differently is I would have engaged in probably a lot of second party relationships. I would not have redelegated any of the actual first party studios into these things, mostly because if you look at it this way, or you look at it from like a strength-based approach, PlayStation, they have very clear and definable strengths. Really story-driven, single-player experiences. They don't have the internal infrastructure to support that other style of game. So why repurpose what you have when you could just go somewhere else? And with that comes a lot of additional risk, absolutely, but it comes a lot of additional benefit. You know, and also if these were to fail, as they have, no one would really notice because you're still releasing regular single player experiences.
Yeah.
They might be like, well, where's all these games of service that we promised? I'm like, look, they didn't turn out, but we still got you all the games that you normally get.
And we don't own those teams.
Like, we don't own them. So like it didn't turn out, so we cut them. So we've lost investment money, but we haven't lost purchase money, you know?
Yeah.
So it's probably like a big part of it, because then, yeah, you have that supplementary. It all kind of comes together. The risk is mitigated. I had a point. I'm trying to get back to it, but my brain's not letting me find it again. Someone was about to say something.
Max, I think you were about to jump in.
So I can find it.
I was gonna say, you know, part of me is this, like the little cynic in me is also like maybe they were doing it to try and get rid of their smaller, underperforming studios, because like London got closed. After their thing was cancelled back in 2024.
Outlaw Games got closed.
Yeah. Blue Point's gone now.
Yeah.
And like Blue Point was only just recently acquired as well.
Yeah, 2021.
Yeah, like, I agree. I could agree with you in some things. Like, understandably, as the market has changed, studios like Pixel Opus are kind of not viable, right? Yeah. Like, I enjoyed Concrete Genie. I thought it was really cool, but that's not what the AAA console space is, right? Not ideal. Like Media Molecule, they should be fucking out of there. If it wasn't for that, for what's her face with the BAFTA, no one's gonna even. They're keeping that for the prestige resume, right?
Gotta be something.
Blue Point were bought in with what we would assume is their purpose, what they are good at, which is the remakes, the remasters, and that hasn't changed. That is this from before they were purchased, and then when they were purchased, and until after they were purchased. The demand on solid remakes and remasters has not altered.
They were an interesting case, and we could probably jump when we talk a little bit now, Vinny, around like studio management. But Blue Point were an interesting thing. I had this theory that I'd spoken about on our show, was that knowing how expensive games are to make, studios are more protective of what works now than ever. So if I'm very similar to, we heard the conversations around FromSoft not wanting another team to approach a remake of Bloodborne, is because they want to pull that trigger when they're ready to do it, knowing it's a guaranteed hit. And we're seeing that across the other teams as well. Santa Monica themselves are doing the God of War remake. It's not a third party or second party team doing it. So I think and I think Shuhei's
Naughty Dog with The Last of Us
and Shuhei's spoken about this, I think, on podcasts before, where it's like each studio's run like its own business unit, and they all need to be profitable in their own way. And if I have Uncharted, I would like to pull that lever in a point where it's like, all right, what's an instant win for Naughty Dog where we can guarantee revenue? We're doing the Uncharted 1 remake. As opposed to, we give it to Blue Point, they do it, it sells, whatever, but we can't pull that lever again, right? So when we're developing Intergalactic and we've got this 7-year development cycle, $200-300 million to develop this game, let's have our team do Last of Us Part 1 remake ourselves, and that money's coming towards our studio and further supporting the delays and cost of Intergalactic. So I think Blue Point found themselves in a rock and a hard place where they were brought in to do remakes, but at the time, remakes were done by teams because the development of games was a little bit easier at the time, and it's like, well, we can kind of just let Blue Point do this, right? Not so much Demon's Souls, but think back their PS3 work. Think Shadow of the Colossus even into the collections of Metal Gear and Uncharted. It's kind of like it was a different world back then, where now studios are so guarded on their own IP. I'm sure there was a time where Bluepoint went around to most of these teams and said, let us do a God of War remake. Like, no, we're doing it. Let us do Uncharted. No, we're doing the next one. It's ours.
Which, in that case, is poor studio management, because you are one collective ecosystem.
Yeah.
You are separate you are separate businesses within this greater thing. But what's the point of having this system of studios if you can't talk to one another?
Yeah, I agree.
Like if the concern was how Naughty Dog wanted to handle it, cool. Bluepoint, they're not in the same area, obviously,
No, they're in
but
Texas, I think.
the pipeline of conversation is simpler than it could ever have been.
Yeah.
But to jump back to Max's point, I just want to sort of reiterate that he is correct. So, because like whether it be Gorilla Cambridge, which was thrust a bunch of shitty PSVR
Yeah, they were
games
closed
and
after
then
that, yeah.
shut down when they're like, well, we haven't been supporting PSVR. We told you to do PSVR. It didn't sell. You're gone. And then same goes for like Studio London, et cetera, et cetera. So you are correct. I think that the Sony have certainly set up times in the past where they have kneecapped a studio to then be like, oh, I'm sorry, you didn't do what we asked. So absolutely that could be the case. But yeah, like they should be able to talk to one another, and then you're not having to have that out, because if they're concerned about it's not going to be done the way we want it, like we're part of it, man.
Yeah. It's interesting.
This is
though,
the we.
Yeah, and it's like what is happening in reality, because even Sucker Punch has spoken about like Sly Cooper and be like, if anyone's going to do it, it's us, and that's Sly Cooper, an IP that is like.
But yeah, like that's the like this from a studio management perspective. In this case, it's in Herman Hulst's position, right? For him to encourage that level of like straight up ego,
I
like,
agree.
to put it simply,
Yeah.
within the studio structure, demonstrates his how he manages, right? Like, I'm not saying that Shuhei was any different, because the studio structure as a whole is kind of been the same for as long as long as first party studios were really a thing, but. It does feel like because PlayStation, which is a great accolade to have, as being in a position where they are seen as the upper echelon, they are the boutique, they are the ones that make this next level shit, this prestige that rubs off on each of those studios now that they have consistent bangers. Like Naughty Dog have earned that prestige, absolutely, of course, and like Sucker Punch. Sure, you've had two pretty, a couple of pretty good ones, but like not in the same space. But they're creating that level that is the culture of PlayStation that is brought by your Sony Santa Monica, by your Naughty Dog, and is trickling down into the other ones now.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, Media Molecule's going to be all hoity-toity about their fucking Tearaway, not Tearaway remake, a Little Big Planet remake or whatever. I'm like, fucking calm down, man.
Yeah, we got Astrobot. Vinny, I want to pivot to, speaking of strategy and culture and things like that, the PC push or lack of. Obviously, we saw Sony start to launch games to PC. There's now rumors, I think via Jason Schreier, that they will be pulling back from PC, except for the games as a service. Like, how do you feel, I guess, around that, the porting of PlayStation exclusives to PC and what that may or may not do to the brand and the console sales, if you think those things correlate? And two, what's your personal view on if you think Sony should continue or stop doing the porting to PC?
So first off, I think porting to the PC was a good experiment. They were doing, and like as we've spoken about, games sell the most in the first 3 to 6 months, and then they kind of taper off. So doing stuff that is a year or 2 years past its expiration date is just sitting on the shelf collecting dust, generally on sale. Why not bring those to a new audience? Maybe get people like familiar with the PlayStation ecosystem if they've been forever PC people. So you're giving them really good first party games, like on a new environment. Granted, the ports at launch were for the most part terrible. They were rectified later, but they were shown to not actually be that profitable. So because you're actually adding more, you're putting more into the game at that point to get it ready for a PC port. Whereas that's a first party studio. Whereas like if they did it to a second party studio who would later have a timed exclusive, they would do that in the background anyway.
Yeah.
And then release it on
Like
other
a Stellar
platforms.
Blade. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So taking it back, you're also potentially losing your monopoly that you have, which is what I thought is a good idea for them to pull back, because I hate the fact that I would call I don't hate, but I think that PlayStation is actually a monopoly now currently in terms of PC's PC. Everyone thinks of Nintendo as being the secondary console, but PlayStation is the primary console, and they have a monopoly on the primary console. Xbox is unfortunately faded. They're trying to get back to it. We'll talk about that later. But when they have the primary market, it's like with everyone, they'll just play it safe.
Would you
And-
launch games on PC? If you're Herman Holtz, right? And you're sitting there
No.
with Hideki Nishino going, we're going to make a call on this, all right? Shuhei isn't here anymore. Jim Ryan's gone. Jack Tretton retired. What do we do? Adam Boyes isn't there. No one's there. What do we do? Do we do it? Or do we pull the trigger? Or do we pull back? What would you do?
I'd pull back. I wouldn't pull that trigger.
So you'd pull
Keep
back
games-
single player games off PC.
Yeah, yeah. I would not put them on PC at all. I'd keep them. I'd give anything that needs a concurrent play base. So Helldivers, any other games as a service, Marathon, all that stuff. Like throw it on there. Destiny, like anything that can have cross-platform and cross-play. I mean, Rocket League. Things that develop there first, then span into other consoles. Keep that, because you then player base is what keeps those games alive. But for single player experiences, keep on the PlayStation. They're there. That's their identity. Those games are PlayStation's identity. You give them to another platform, you then take away their identity, and it's like,
For the players.
and yeah, for the players, for the profits.
For the profits.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what do you think?
For me, personally, asking me,
You're in the chair.
I'm in the chair.
You're in the chair.
God, I would love to be in the chair, Vinny. Let me tell you. I would agree. I would. I mean, Sony do experiments. They often will talk about these experiments. They spoke about the experiment to launch Horizon into PlayStation Plus. They spoke about how that impacted the tail of the game's sales. This was during one of the earnings call, Vinny. And that is why we haven't seen first-party titles released into PlayStation Plus 1 year out, is because they actually saw a drop-off in terms of the sales of those games dropping below what Horizon Zero Dawn was at that time. So what they basically confirmed, which is what Jim Ryan was talking about during the ABK trial, is like launching games in a subscription service has a negative effect on the game's sales. So that was a thing they trialed. Launching games to PC also is an interesting trial, given that I'm very much on the side of the audiences are what they are. PC gamers are PC gamers, PlayStation gamers are PlayStation gamers, or console gamers are console gamers. They're in a rock and a hard place where you look at the younger generation who don't have this allegiance to console. They have grown up on iPhones and tablets and watch streamers, and streamers are playing on PC. Therefore, they're not inclined to really want a console. I often talk about my younger brother who plays on PC. Hate him for it, but alas, he plays on PC. And that is because he's part of that culture. He hasn't grown up in the way I did, where it's like, here's a PlayStation 1, or I've seen someone play a PlayStation 1, and then I fell in love, and here we are all these years later. So, on one hand, Sony can use games to PC as a way of attracting a new audience, right? The idea would be, I was never going to buy a PlayStation, but I will pick up Horizon. The sequel comes out, or God of War. The sequel comes out. It's only on PlayStation at that time. I'll invest in a PS5 and buy that game. That is one realistic view of what could happen in that situation.
Yeah.
The alternate to that is that for it to work, you need to launch these games day and date. Doing so puts you in the position that Microsoft found themselves in with Quantum Break back in 2016 of this starts to actually negatively affect the perception of the console and the sales of the console, because I'm no longer required to own an Xbox to play Quantum Break, or I'm no longer required to own a PlayStation to play Horizon. So it's a delicate balance, and it's very similar to the stuff we'll talk about with Xbox. For it to work, you have to go in all in one direction or the other. You can't do this, we'll bring it a year later, bring it to 2 years later, because you're going to see these drop-offs in sales. Sony's spoken about Days Gone, Horizon, like the early releases of games on PC were doing much better than the later ones. Spider-Man 2, Last of Us Part 2, Part 1 remake, and so on. And it was because, one, it was a novelty at the time that PlayStation games were coming to PC. And two, the idea is you buy a PlayStation to play them. So the game coming out 12 months later is people have moved on. And this is my general theme that will tie directly into the Xbox conversation around exclusives, if they should continue to do it or not, is people simply move on. You've got an opportunity to capture a player once, and that is at launch. Only a very select few games have the gravitas to attract players 6 months, 12 months later, because people just find the next thing to play. So for me, Sony need to protect home base, because the console market is going to be challenged in the following generation and into the next after that, PS7. So that's their biggest competitor. It isn't Xbox, it isn't any one brand specifically, it's the diminishing console market. While Sony is selling more than ever and making more money than ever, they are very much aware that the shift is leaning PC. So we can either embrace that, put our games on PC, and devalue the console in the short term, or fortify around the console and hope to build a basic wall that by the time that this happens, PlayStation just becomes the way you play games on your TV anyway, that people just continue to support it. So I'm very much in the position of, from both a business, personally I don't really care because I don't play on PC, but from a business perspective, Sony need to fortify home base. They need to make sure PS6 sells, because they need that to sell 100 plus million units. And that by the end of PS6, a PS7 or an ethereal PlayStation 7 is needed at a time where the generation before us is not playing on console. So I've said a lot there, Ryan.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll add one thing to your. I wouldn't say that PlayStation's competing with PC so much as it's competing with handhelds, like because I think
and everything.
Yeah, well, it's like I think you said, because like kids growing up from iPads, going to PCs, then going to the Steam Decks, going to the ROG Allies, going to the Lenovo's. It's going, which is why they're talking about having their own handheld. You know, they're bringing back their PlayStation Portable in a sense. But they're trying to compete with that market because they know a lot of people primarily play handheld because they have their TV's nothing but a second monitor content. I mean, statistically, according to, people scrolling on their phone and watching a show. That's why I've gone off tangents about how every show's exposition these days because no one's paying attention to shit, and it's really doing my head in. But it's true. So it's like, okay, how do we corner that market? And that's why they're talking about releasing a handheld console, and the success of the Portal, like it's done way better than anyone thought it was going to currently, and now they've added cloud streaming to it.
Not in Australia,
it's not in Australia, but it's taking off. Like obviously our internet's too terrible to do any kind of cloud streaming right now, but I think that's the market they're going to try and capture, but they're going to release a console alongside it, and like having that, they still wanted people to be in that ecosystem. If you can get it, if you can capture them in the handheld ecosystem for PlayStation, that's a big point as well, and because they'll be connected.
Ryan, what about you? What would you do? What are your views on some of the stuff?
My angle on this is a little different. Like, had they made the right choice previously? Absolutely. I think putting the games to PC is a great choice, but there are so many different factors that I don't think. There's one piece of information that would completely alter how I consider this entire business process. What is the actual cost to get the remake made? Because my immediate thought is they have Nexus, right? They have a literal studio within their system that are built to make PC ports, right? So they have an operating cost already. You're not really adding extra expense because they're already operating. Like, what the fuck are they doing? Like, you would assume that they are like making, if they're not porting shit, what are they doing?
Yeah.
So there's no additional cost there. If you were to, as you mentioned, Vinny, if you were to put it onto like a external individual,
like, this is. Yeah.
I reckon based on an average of $100,000 salary, Nixus is about 50 or 60 people. They often take a year or so to develop a port. You're looking at about 72 million. So I would say between 50 and say $60 million to develop.
Yeah, and look, that's what it costs for that studio to use this, that number as a reference point, right? Cool, beautiful. I said, if that studio is not importing stuff for you, what are they doing? And then by extension, if you have to go external, you're paying that plus a premium, plus the additional costs of it all, right? If they did not have an internal studio that could do it, then it's a bit of a different conversation. Speaking of different conversations, though, the PC ports, they have stopped because to use your example, Josh, of they need to fortify themselves. Yes, they do, because their territory is being confronted. There was a window of time where the war for your lounge room existed within two people, Microsoft and Sony. Microsoft have sort of failed on that, so Sony started absolutely dominating the battle for the lounge room. Suddenly, with conversations of a Steam machine and this Project Helix, which is looking to be more PC-based and allegedly can run Steam, when they were just Sony and Microsoft, Xbox and PlayStation, there was no chance that nothing would go from one to the other. But if you have a box in your area that can suddenly play PC, where PC is normally at your desk, it's a whole different experience. Because those that want to play PC are going to play PC. But once that line is immediately blurred and like new territories they're essentially being invaded, to put it in a crude term, that's why they're locking it down. I think that my assumption would be that their original ballpark picture of what they thought PC was going to make them was ridiculous. Way exceeding, like there's a little bit of that hubris in there, right? But the understanding of it is that as that novelty decreased, yes, each game was different sales, but they were also released in very different time frames. But the challenge that you have is if you lay the law down of being like, hey, we're going to, after 12 months of release, we're putting it on PC. For those that may have been tempted to buy the console, they're not going to now. They're like, I'll just play on my PC, I'll just wait 12 months. So they needed to keep it inconsistent. They need to have some short, some long, to remove that ability to lock it in and go, I'll just buy when it comes to PC later.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go.
How much do you think this has to do with PlayStation productions? Which you would think is like completely, like, what does the movie have to do with anything? Not so much the
PC ports, you mean?
Well, in general, right? In the sense that
exposure, is that what you mean?
Yeah. So in the idea that a PC player, like having the game on PC might mean they don't play it on PlayStation or not buy a PlayStation. But that's a harder sell because PC players are embedded. So there's probably that less return in doing that. But maybe, and I've just kind of come up with this theory, but maybe that they have a concern that they release Intergalactic on PlayStation, right? Intergalactic is a big success. Then there's an Intergalactic HBO show reaching a brand new audience that don't play games or don't have a PlayStation or play on PC. They're just, and they're interested in the game because of the show. Very similar that we saw Last of Us Part 2 sales skyrocket 200% after Part 2 launched on HBO. It's those people that are new to all this. They don't have allegiances to PlayStation or PC, but want to play Intergalactic. And then they have a choice if that game is on PC to go, do I play it on the computer I have? Or do I buy a PlayStation? So it limits that to, I'm really interested in Intergalactic. The show's really great. The movie's really great. How do I play it? It's only on PlayStation. Do you reckon there's any correlation to that?
I think there is a little bit, but at the same time, I always have to... One thing I learned from working in marketing is the average person does not think how you think. Because you're in that position, right? So, and the same goes for this here, right? When we watch a movie, or like I watched Gran Turismo last week, and you see PlayStation Productions, I understand what that means. I understand where that sits in the grand scheme of PlayStation and Sony, etc. The average person just goes, "Oh, PlayStation." So they're not even going to consider the PC side of it, right? So like from a brand recognition is kind of what you're getting at, right? So if you were to see the PlayStation Productions logo, you're still going to inherently connect that to PlayStation. So like even if the option is it's on PC, people will be like, oh well, it's a PlayStation thing, so I've got to go get a PlayStation. And only the savvy few would kind of go, but is it on PC though? And at the same time, you know, as we've mentioned multiple times throughout this conversation, is the you know, that first opening window, let's say 6 months, is the most important time of the game's release, and then from there it dissipates pretty exponentially, right? So much so that, like, if you were to look at across a graph, and you know, we love it's capitalism, so we love graph up and to the right. Once that shit goes down and to the right, it's going to stay steady. Like, you'll get little peaks and troughs here and there, but it's pretty consistent. By going to PC, you are getting a spike that simply didn't exist before. Like, these are people that, even if it's curiosity, out of its interest, out of its novelty, it doesn't matter. Like, that is more money on the presumption that the return on that is equal and or greater to the cost of the port in of itself. Hence why that bit of information with the port cost,
How much? Yeah.
really shapes how you look at it, because we are, like, right now we are basing all of our assumptions purely on vibes. But if the answer is that, you know, even the 200,000 copies of whatever earn X, but the cost of running of Nixus to do that port is Y, it's not going to something we're going to do anymore. That's the only thing. But yeah, for me, it's as simple as, like, the ground of your lounge room is being confronted. PlayStation don't want to be like, well, if you're going to buy a game on Steam, that's okay if you're playing on your PC in your office or on your laptop. But if you're suddenly bringing that Steam account into our area, we want the full cut. If you're going to sit on your couch and play a PlayStation game, you're doing it on a PlayStation.
Yeah. Yeah. Max, what about you? Where do you land on it?
Look, Ryan kind of sold me, because we spoke about this on our show, I think this week.
Just assume that most shit we say we've talked about on our show. We keep prefacing it, but, like, all we do is talk. So we've said
Ryan
it somewhere.
did kind of sell me on the whole, you know, the battle for the lounge room. My only hesitancy to that is, I don't know any single PC game who's like, you know what, I wish I could play my PC games on the couch, on my TV, when my monitor is far superior.
Once again, that's because that is a different market. They are PC players. The market I'm talking about is the market that isn't here yet. That is your Steam box. That is your Project Helix. This is on the precipice of that. So they're cutting it ahead of it. And also, Vinny, you brought up a very good point about handhelds. I don't think about handhelds at all. Period. So I really should consider them, because I think that is absolute viable
mobile
threat.
gaming isn't real gaming. Shh.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you
yeah,
call this, the PS Portable, PS Vita, like Game Boy Advance, like it was just a generation away. Like with the one point, we've had a generation of just nothing. But handheld gaming's always been around. But I agree. Like, I'm not playing mobile phone gaming. I don't think that's real gaming. But
Get out of here with that trash.
But Switch 2 on the handheld, ROG, Xbox, ROG Ally, whatever it's freaking called, is gaming in a sense as well. But yeah, if you capture that market of having your PlayStation store there, instead of transferring an ROG to having your Steam or your Xbox service and then transferring that to PC, like, that's where you got to think. It's like handheld to console, handheld to ecosystem. I feel like that's the good point of capture. But yes, I agree. Mobile gaming is not real gaming.
No, you're right. Yeah,
go back to the part where I convinced you about something. I like.
Tell me the part where I was right.
The left.
For the first time ever. I think part of it could be the simplicity of you will be able to play PC games on Xbox soon. Therefore, Xbox will be allowed to play PlayStation games because we have them on PC. Therefore, no more.
Could
and they're
be,
just done. They're like, we're just cutting it off.
Yep.
And it could be something as petty as that. And
I think it absolutely is, because it's all a brand image, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, true.
So we'll see. But
because right now, I'm sorry to jump in here, but if you look at how within the vocal, like, so I know social media isn't real life, I understand that, but if you look at the conversation, it is like Xbox are looked at as lesser because their games are now on their competitor, right?
Yeah,
it is
like
actively
Halo coming
seen.
to, you know,
Yeah.
Forza, whatever it is.
Xbox has become a weaker. Like, I still think it was the decision they had to make, but that it has made their brand look weaker. And if by PlayStation, even just MLB, made, you know, to those that care, looked weaker for a little bit, and then everyone forgot about MLB, you know. But
an MLB game.
Yeah.
MLB's great, mate. Chill out.
That's the one team I forget about, San Diego. But Max, anything? I guess as we wrap up the PlayStation discussion, we move on to the guys in green. Anything else you wanted to kind of touch on that was burning in the back of your mind, or?
The other thing that going back to like studio closures and stuff, real quickly, after the news of how Shuhei and Jim Ryan's confrontation kind of ended, it does make me question how many of those studio closures were just because Jim Ryan didn't like them, and not because of an actual failure in product. It was just Jim Ryan going, no, I don't like you guys.
It's like set him up to fail. We've all worked. I know I've worked in corporate, and there's a whole bunch of bullshit sabotage. Rather than just saying, "Oh, that's probably should get rid of that." Like, there's all these nasty ways to fuck
there
with
is a
people.
hoop that you have to jump through to be able to fire someone properly. You do need cause.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's interesting though. They closed Studio London.
Not in
That's Jim
America,
Ryan's, just Jim Ryan's home base. He was from Sony Europe. Like, it is interesting,
anyway.
but it's just like, yeah, it is. That was like a shitty situation, but there is some irony and some comedy in the fact that he retires, goes to Studio London, they do this big party, gets the cookie, leaves, and then a week later it's like, oh, we're closing the studio. Very sad news, but it's like,
Those cookies really expensive, not really good. You know, like,
No.
maybe reconsider them for your baptisms or your weddings.
Yeah.
Turns out it can shut a whole studio down.
yeah. But let's move to the team in green, and Max will stay with you here. Let's start with the big one, exclusivity. So for those paying attention, we saw Project Latitude take full flight in the Xbox ecosystem. We start seeing what was originally positioned as just 4 games, not a reflection of a change of strategy, turn into games being announced for PlayStation on the stage. Xbox team members wearing a PlayStation t-shirt to announce Halo, the Jeff Keighley moment with Indiana Jones and the big one last thing. Exclusives were something that was dissolving very much in front of our eyes with Xbox. Obviously, we've seen Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond leave the brand and Asha Sharma take over as Xbox CEO, and we're seeing this commitment back to Xbox in terms of, I guess, messaging for the time being, in terms of she's only been in the role for a short period of time. On exclusives specifically, let's hit the hard-hitting question first. Now that we've seen games launch on PlayStation and now obviously coming to Switch as well, and there's this talk of reevaluating exclusivity, where do you see this landing? If you had to put money down or a prediction, how do you realistically see Xbox handling exclusivity or the lack of moving forward?
Well, it's one of those things. Like Ryan mentioned before, that the vocal majority of the social media people are like, that are Xbox fans, are like, this is ridiculous. You should never have done this. And then you look at the 5 million plus sales that Forza had within a month on PlayStation 5.
Yeah, it's all better than Gran Turismo, the actual game that they made.
We don't say.
PlayStation have. That's fucked.
As a fan of games who no longer buys into the Xbox ecosystem, I love cross-platform stuff. I love the lack of exclusivity. I love them sharing their IPs over here. Because I used to buy both consoles because I didn't like missing out on stuff.
Me too.
I'm a sucker for FOMO. Then I got a really good PC, and then everything comes to PC, so I just play it on PC now. But you know what? One of my most upcoming game of the year is Fable, and so far it is coming to PlayStation. I think Xbox is still trying to play catch up, and they do need to get their, you know, we've spoken a lot about brand identity, and they do need to get that back. Is it one of those things that they've swerved so hard in one direction that they can't bring it back to their, you know, they're straight and narrow of their exclusivity wall now, and it'll be interesting to see how Ashoshana kind of rides these waves to right the ship of Xbox after it's gone literally from one side to the other. It'll be interesting to see how her messaging will go from some games will be exclusive to maybe just as Sony is doing games as a service will only be shared across consoles to this is our stuff, because they've given away, as far as we know now, that have been announced, Gears, Halo, all of their big main identity pieces have moved away from their walled garden. So it'll be interesting to see how they do actually roll it back, if that's what they choose. And I feel that because it is making so much money over here, it's going to be a real struggle from a numbers perspective to be like, is it worth losing all of those sales just to try and claw back some of our identity, I guess.
If you had to bet,
Can't put the genie back in the bottle.
If I had to bet,
we're holding you to this, Max. So you're saying it here live.
I
I'm hearing
think
this for
they
the
will.
first time.
I think they will stay cross-platform. I think they've made too much
Multi-platform.
money, and I think they're just going to become. Because Project Helix, by the sound of it, seems like it's going to be one of those Steam box PC console hybrids. I think they're going to become the biggest publisher ever, and that's how they're just going to make their money. They will price their box at whatever they can to make money, but all their money will come from software sales.
Vinny,
I think they'll stay.
multi-platform.
Not exclusive. Yeah.
Vinny, betting man, you're Asher Sharma, sitting there with Mr. Booty. What are you doing?
I agree. I agree. I reckon that you can't. As I said, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. Like, they've gone too far in one way and they can't go back. So I do think they're probably going to be a competitor. Not like, so Microsoft being software themselves. Like, they'll never. Hardware was an experiment with the Xbox. Like, the primarily software. They're going back to their roots. It's going to be Xbox is going to be a software-based system. The hardware of the Helix is going to be a competing PC with the Steam, well, not the Steam machine, but, we talk about that being a boutique item, but it's going to be competing with that style of gaming as opposed to, and trying to get their ecosystem, their Xbox gaming, their accounts, instead of using Steam, you're using this instead. And that's where all their software sales are going to come in, like Max said. It's just too hard. You can't.
Well, they're trialing it already with that Xbox mode that they've added to Windows 11. Like they're already trying to soften the blow of moving PC players across to a more classic Xbox style by putting that in.
This is an Xbox, but just not saying it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Ryan,
True. Oh.
bet is in your name, right? Literally. Kind of.
Okay, so my prediction is they will attempt and then not. So what I mean by that is they will try and they'll remove day and date for a little while. They might do like a little 3-month, 6-month thingy, and then realize that that's fucking going to staggeringly impact them, and then just go back to day and date. Because they, as you said, the genie in the bottle, they cannot go back. They can't go from one extreme to the other. It's simply not possible. But the best they can hope for is like that stagger backwards. They're like, well, this is kind of how we were doing it before, so it's not really a massive change.
Well, they're going to have some hard data soon, because Forza 6 is I think it's a 6-month window by the look of it, whereas Forza 5 was years. It'll be interesting to see how quickly that sells in comparison to.
But that strategy, and this is going to sound like an absolute fucking fanboy stance, but that strategy only works if the games are fucking good.
Better than
like
good.
Outside of Forza, majority of the games that have been released from Xbox, at least since the Xbox One, not the number one, as in the one, whatever, not the original, because there's been quite a number of good games prior to the Xbox One. There has been a strong change in their quality of exclusives. Like, your exclusives are what bring you to that console. And PlayStation, yes, they're a lot more infrequent, but every time they do, they bring you to the PlayStation. Like from a purely critical standpoint, not remove my absolute subjectiveness aside, from a critical standpoint, on average, PlayStation score better games. Is it a bias thing? Yeah, probably. But at their core, they are better experiences. Because on top of that, PlayStation have always they have built their studios to where they are now. Microsoft has consistently, since day dot, so going back to their roots doesn't change anything, because back to their roots, we're still buying other people's creativity. They didn't come up with Halo. Halo was, with Bungie, and Bungie were going to put it on the Mac. They came in and bought it. That strategy has not changed within Microsoft at all. We saw it in full capacity with the whole ABK, the Bethesda purchase, all the studios that they're building for this Game Pass, right? It's just buy, but they're choosing to just buy a bunch of shit rather than fostering genuine, incredible studios that can consistently deliver goodness. Instead, if we can have everything come out at like a 7, the law of averages, at least it's good.
How do you feel about, as you place your bet, that they will be kind of moving towards a timed exclusivity window and then moving back? I don't know if you saw the analytics kind of table of what they had estimated the sales of Xbox games on PC are. I don't know if you've seen that image that's been floating around.
No.
So they've got obviously games on the top end, like Forza selling that, 5.6 million. Games like Sea of Thieves, the Oblivion remake kind of on the top end scale, and then scaling back to games like Ninja Gaiden 4 or Outer Worlds 2, where the sales are predicted to be in the hundreds of thousands, right? So on the lower end, there's this conversation of like, is the juice worth the squeeze? And you kind of touched on that quality bar that needs to be there. And I agree in the sense that, I think I said this about PlayStation, I can't remember what the correlation was, but around like, it takes a very special game to transcend. Oh, it was around the windowing of PC releases, and I said, I'm quoting myself, around the idea of like, it takes a special game to break that mold in which that releasing the game after the fact somewhere else is going to see this massive spike in sales, and Forza is that game, right? But a game like Outer Worlds 2, which did launch day and date, or Avowed, that came later, just didn't move the needle at all, right? We're talking hundreds of thousands, and not even millions. So do you think that maybe the bet that they will pull back onto timed exclusivity is on the basis that they're not seeing the massive sales of those games anyway, and hence the juice is not worth the squeeze?
Essentially, yeah. So the way I'm looking at it, because I'm looking at it more from a general, like the whole big point of we've touched upon is brand identity, right? So Microsoft has long lost that battle of seeing Xbox as a decent competitor, period. So we are very quickly learning, and we're seeing this from generation to generation to generation. There does appear to be a finite number of people that are buying consoles, right? And once you lose your stake in that finite number, it's going to be very difficult to swing them back. So if they are making things exclusive, it's just, well, I'm talking console exclusive, by the way.
Yeah,
I understand that everything's coming to PC, because that's fine. But we're talking from a purely console exclusive standpoint. They don't have that number of people that are still playing Xbox right now. Even this generation in the past, what's the last number? Pardon me, the last number that we're aware of, like 30 something million, which is obviously not a lot, still a good number, because
more than the Wii U.
Something million of anything is incredible.
Definitely more than the Wii U.
Yeah, like sick, dope. But then the PlayStation's like so far in the other direction. And now we're in this digital age where PlayStation have caught up to how Xbox were doing it, where you can put the older games in your new console and it still plays without a problem. So even now that everyone's jumped over, they're going to keep building their library. And that library consists of now of both PlayStation and Xbox games. Yeah. So why are they going to go buy an Xbox?
Yeah. That's the
outside of the hardcore that like, I'm bleed Xbox, in the same way that if PlayStation even shit the bed this generation, I'd probably still be buying a PS6.
Yeah, I agree. Like the vocal minority is one thing. It's interesting, like, because on one hand, I feel like they've specifically called out exclusivity in the Asher Sharma letter, right? That was
because it's an easy
yeah, it's an
like,
easy
on
thing.
top of that, because like Sharma is just doing this very interesting, like almost like sycophantic sort of marketing run right now. It's like, I'm going to tell you everything that you want to hear. Can I deliver on it? No, I'm just trying to hype up the masses, right? It's all the blatant, easy, low-hanging fruit wins. But she can't, like, once again, looking at this, we're seeing the data. Game Pass makes money, but not the money that it needs. Not the money to sustain all the studios that it has to deliver games at a quality that will necessitate that exclusivity. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that made sense.
No, it does. I think I'm in agreement. I think mentioning it on the letter is interesting because I think there is some tweaks to the formula that they can employ that can still be long-standing. And kind of maybe address some of the concerns of their hardcore without pulling exclusivity back. I mean, we spoke about this on our show last time. The fact that like they've been really aggressive with it, right? Again, Jeff Keighley on stage, Halo dude wearing the PlayStation t-shirt, having PlayStation logos in all their game trailers and things like that. They could do the more Xbox-centric approach, where it's announce a game, it only shows the Xbox logo, then the game just appears on the PlayStation YouTube as a trailer, or it's referenced in the IGN article as a multi-platform game. But in terms of the audience seeing the product for the first time, it's very coded Xbox. Where I think they may land on, potentially, is right next to the word exclusive was the word windowing. And I think that's key. I think they may look to maybe move to more of a timed release and a short time window. Very similar to what we're seeing with Forza 6, where it's like 6 months, it's coming to PlayStation. Games as a service, anything that's got multiplayer coded remains day and date across all platforms. But they may look to go to a timed exclusivity, specifically around their biggest games are technically online games, multiplayer games, right? Forza's technically got online components. Halo's technically multiplayer. It's really their single player games that haven't moved the needle, regardless if they've launched day and date or lapsed, right? There are some big ones like Fable and Gears that are probably going to prove this theory wrong. But on the scale of their studios that aren't those teams, think the Hellblade team, Ninja Theory, the Psychonauts team,
Double Fine.
Yeah, some of the Bethesda studios on the smaller end that aren't Bethesda Softworks, the Avowed team, so on and so forth. Those games didn't move the needle on PlayStation, launching either timed or at release. So could they make the case to go, well, it makes sense for us to keep these timed in the basis that it's not moving the needle either way, and that way we can kind of fortify part of our brand. But then on the other end, it's like, well, why does that matter when Halo, Forza, and the big players are coming day and date anyway? So why even confuse the messaging? So
like I would like, once again, looking at the data, most games that release, as you said, over to with a delayed whatever, like Indiana Jones, right? Like it was a game that was nominated for Game of the Year, so it kind of like crap on PlayStation because of that time, right? Like at the speed at which everything moves now,
people lose
interest.
Yeah,
like I remember like Shadow of the Tomb Raider was one of the weirdest exclusivity points, and then it sold like absolute garbage when it came out on the PlayStation because just so much time had passed that people went, eh.
I mean, not just that though. In a world of streamers, everyone's seen the game to completion now. Why go and spend the money on it?
Yeah, and that's the other point. And the other point that no one seems to be mentioning online, and specifically the Xbox people, they're like, look, these games didn't sell on PlayStation. Why should they continue to port them? No one has asked the question. Fine. But how did these games sell on Xbox?
Yeah.
Because some of these shitty sales could have sold more than the Xbox version. So it's kind of like, well, if we cut off PlayStation, we're really cutting ourselves down a few pegs here.
Well, that's the other thing. The way they've structured their business now, there's no way for us to correctly identify how many copies of a game they're selling on their own fucking console. So for Xbox, it's likely a lose-lose. It's going to be low sales counts on day and date because the Game Pass, and everyone pays whatever, and then 6 months later you're going to get another hit, and as you said, like, who knows if they're the difference. Like, you lose here when there's limited interest or limited buying power, and then you try again later on a console that has great buying power but low interest.
Yeah, I think they need a cull. Unfortunately, for them to succeed either way, for a game like it, and it's shitty because some of these games are really good. Like, you think of the new Doom, Doom: The Dark Ages.
Dark Ages.
Apparently on PlayStation, hundreds of thousands of units. So I think we've overestimated, like, generally the way that games typically sell, because not everything cracks 1 million, right? It's the big hitters that do. So, like, a game like Doom: The Dark Ages or a game like Avowed, cracking 1 million is a big milestone for them. 2 million. Like, think like Pragmata just like screaming from the rooftops, hey, we've hit over 1 million sales, right? So you've got, to your point, this effect of Game Pass affecting Xbox game sales. The only place where the audience is forced to buy those games, like forcibly, is PlayStation, because we don't have Game Pass on PlayStation. So, but then we've got this vocal minority of the fan base kind of screaming back for exclusives. So if I was to bet where I think we might see this, I think is a softening on the approach, not changing the structure. I think if a game can launch day and date, it will. If the team can't launch it, like have the PlayStation version ready at launch, they'll do the time windowing piece. But what will change is that you're not going to maybe see the guy in the PlayStation t-shirt. You're not going to see the PlayStation logo on the trailer during their showcase. You're going to learn about it after the fact. And this is commonplace on PlayStation. They will actually embargo people talking about the game coming to other platforms for a window of time. Nintendo do this a lot. So I think a combination of softening the approach in terms of how they speak about other platforms, plus bringing everything together. This isn't a ZeniMax Bethesda game. This is an Xbox game. This isn't an Activision game. This is an Xbox game, and bringing everything under the same umbrella. And I think those things combined, being Xbox front-facing, and also removing of the logos and the t-shirts and things like that, and not talking about the other platforms, is going to satiate some of the ego of that minority to just go, well, it's on Game Pass. I mean, it is what it is. Like, the genie's out of the bottle.
So are you kind of advocating for the idea if we think like Capcom, right? Like, when we talk about like Resident Evil or whatever, we just talk about Capcom. Like, it's a team within Capcom, but they're not, uniquely identified as like team A, team B, or whatever, right? So are you advocating like Microsoft
no
readjust everything so you no longer experience I'm trying to think of a random team out of my bum. We'll just use Double Fine again. Like, this is not seen as a Double Fine game. It's like, it's a Microsoft game, but then in the credits, like, made by Double Fine.
No, I still think they identify as the team. Bethesda shouldn't be publishing their own games. It should be Xbox publishing. Like, it should all be under the umbrella of an Xbox studio game. Like, you see Call of Duty. Sometimes Call of Duty is spoken about without even mention of Xbox. Right? It's kind of, it's there. It's Microsoft Studios is on the box or whatever, but it's like, in some marketing beats, there's no mention of it. And it's because the game sells the most on PlayStation. There's a big, I think 85%.
And because the game itself has a long-term identity outside of an exclusivity. I think that's, once again, reaffirming the Microsoft's buying something and making it theirs after it's been everywhere else, or after it's been exposed to a wider audience. Like, no one talks about Call of Duty and Xbox together because Call of Duty is a brand, admittedly, bigger than Xbox.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that by their decision to remove it from Game Pass.
Yeah, but I think that is a change they should do. I think they need to bring it all under an umbrella. Like, World of Warcraft should be they need it to be associated with Xbox and Microsoft, not the other way around. So that's my general opinion on it, is that, and I think Jez Corden's spoken about this as well. Like, they've got Battle.net, they've got all these different platforms for all these different things. They need to, we are Xbox, bring it together so that Xbox as a brand is standing there with their chest out, as opposed to like, this is an Activision game, and then it's like, made by the team that owns them, which is Xbox.
Can you imagine the outcry though if they decided to shut up Battle.net and everyone had to make a Microsoft account to play their games that they've been playing on Battle.net for years? Remember how everyone got so pissy that they needed a PlayStation Network account to play their fucking PC games?
Yeah,
it's almost like
I sometimes
having
don't
your
play
entire
games
business.
if I have to. I don't play games sometimes if I have to if I have to sign up with an email address. I'm like, it's too much effort for me.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the outcry of like we're gonna migrate your BattleNet account over into your Hotmail account so you can play on fucking Windows
Yeah.
Windows Game Shop.
Yeah, and maybe they don't go that.
Their mind.
Maybe they don't go that far, but it's more just association.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
this
I
is
understand.
Xbox.
I'm with you. I don't think there should be a guy wearing a PlayStation T-shirt at an Xbox conference going, "Hello, baby." Like, that's weird.
Yeah.
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 Helix.
Yeah, it's almost like an entire business based on merger and acquisition seems to have a lot of, shortfalls.
Yeah, it differs. The absorption of ZeniMax, or maybe we jump to that, the acquisitions as opposed to Helix, and we'll wrap up with Helix and Game Pass, maybe. Acquisitions themselves have been a big thing in the ecosystem of Xbox. ZeniMax, ABK, 2018 saw Ninja Theory and a whole bunch of studios. Ryan, you've spoken about like that inorganic approach to IP acquisition. And obviously this was done at a time where the studios were perhaps there to kind of funnel Game Pass and provide software for the service to keep people subscribed over time. And we could probably tie this in with Game Pass in that regard. I mean, in one side, the joke was Xbox had no games. Now they've got these studios. Do you find their management of these teams to be sufficient across the board? Or, they've been seemingly hands-off and then very hands-on in some approaches, and then have closed studios that have had games in development. We spoke about the PlayStation handling of their business practices. How do you find Xbox's currently?
Well, it's bad. And like that, there's no fanboyism in that at all. Once again, you look at that data, right? Like, good management of these studios would deliver quality games. Like, just because the frequencies increase, like the expression, Xbox doesn't have games, like it's kind of an incorrect statement, as you said. But like, I think it gets at the core of what people are saying. It's the same. Oh, actually, that's kind of in that sense. But the idea of, what they're saying is they're not games of interest.
Not hitting the
Xbox doesn't have enough
zeitgeist.
games of interest.
Yeah.
Like it feels like it's one of those quotes that kind of like get cut off for whatever reason. But because there's always been games, and with all these acquisitions, they have increased the frequency. Sorry, the quality. Nope, try it again. The quantity of which they can produce games. The downside is they've been really consistent at releasing them all at the same time. Like, it doesn't seem to be like, we'll hold on it for 2 months and we'll drop one here. Because you could go like every 2 months, Microsoft are dropping something gnarly, or every quarter at least. You know what I mean? But they're not doing it. Instead, they're going, here's fucking 4. Because they're all ready to go and we are so desperate in need of money, we need to drop them all now. Completely disregarding the fact that by dropping 4 games at once, we'll just eat at all of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So from an acquisition standpoint, if the question is, should they continue? The answer is no. I think merger and acquisitions and the frequency and the intensity at which the industry has done it at large is purely driven by, and once again, very similar to how 9/11 is actually a really powerful indicator for so much generational change.
Yeah.
The pandemic is that next one, because it has fundamentally changed and broken so many things. Like, all these mergers and acquisitions would not have happened outside of the concerns of outside of the concerns and the stresses that COVID has brought. Once it realized that, this big boom of money, and then because, we're in a up and to the right capitalistic framework, which, I can penalize, but also I very much rely on it. The big influx of money from COVID, and because it must always increase, that money started going away. They started getting scared and started bringing shit together in hopes of saving it, or at least taking advantage of it with a nefarious alternate plan, right?
Yeah.
But now that things are starting to level out again, you're realizing that panic decision is not working for you.
Yeah.
Like, and that panic decision is not Game Pass. Game Pass was a great decision. It would, and there's no other way, it would have changed Xbox's fundamental path moving forward, and they had to do it.
Yeah.
But buying more? No.
Yeah.
No one should be buying any more anything.
Yeah. conscious we've gone
Sadly,
2
that
hours.
does mean that they're. No, I don't care.
I know. Yeah, I was just
Sadly,
gonna say
that-
I don't want to keep you guys. If you guys need to run, we can wrap this up.
No, but sadly, that does mean that they will then have to realign and then close these studios because they can't just suddenly sell them back to no one because no one's willing to buy. And that's the grossest part of what they have done.
Let's
and PlayStation 2, of course.
Yeah, they've done the same thing. Let's wrap up with Helix, I guess, as we talk about the future of Xbox. Now, Max, you play on PC, one of those PC dorks we like to call them.
Oh, how dare you?
Are you excited about the premise of a console PC hybrid and your Steam library and the rest?
Not at all. The reason why I enjoy PC and why I like PC games is because it is the best of the best. Why would I want some half-baked hybrid?
Talking like a real PC elitist. Yeah.
Oh, look, don't get me wrong. There are games that I prefer to play on console that I will pick and choose every day to play on console versus PC, even if I have them across both. Returnal is one of them, and that's because I prefer playing with a controller than I do a mouse and keyboard for my shooters, because that's how I grew up playing them.
Yeah, more Steve shit.
But it's just one of those things of why it feels like they're going to keep them at a competitive cost. They're not going to be the best versions of themselves.
How much?
It feels like a half step.
Last prediction of the day. How many units would you predict the Xbox Helix selling over its life cycle?
Look, I think all the people that own Xboxes are going to upgrade into the Helix, because that's just the next thing for them. But I don't think they're going to pull people outside of I don't think they're going to get many PC gamers going, this is how I make a step towards the console market. I do a half step and I buy a PC with a controller.
So 30-ish million, 30, 35.
I would say anywhere between 25 to 35.
Ryan, what about you? What's your thoughts on Helix and what's your prediction for hardware sales?
From personal experience, I said the way that I use my PC is just to play essentially a bunch of weird games that don't come to PlayStation, and additionally with them being all like simulator games and whatnot, I need a keyboard with all the extra buttons and shit, because whenever you try to play simulator games on consoles with a controller, it's insane because it's just menus on menus on menus. It's all these little, it needs the keyboard and mouse experience, because so like for me personally, I'm not interested in that. As I said, currently the Xbox, even the Xbox games that are coming out on my PlayStation, I don't care about.
Yeah, I'm the same.
So to even be like, well, would I buy it for the Xbox games? No, because as I said before, as of right now, they have not shown that they are capable of making games at a caliber that would want me to step outside of my current ecosystem.
Sales? What's
In
your
terms
number?
of sales, well, what is the last count on Xbox as we know currently? for this
Series
generation?
is anywhere there hasn't been numbers in a very long
It's
time.
collectively like 40 million.
It's 30 to 40, but I think probably likely around 35 million. And I think Xbox One's around 40 to 45. So
Okay.
Xbox One 40 to 45, Xbox Series 30 to 40. There's a bit of a
Cool.
drop off.
So knowing that there is a very presumed drop off, let's say about 10 million people may have bought an Xbox but aren't playing it right now, right? I'm being very generous in saying that 2/3 of people that play Xbox are still playing Xbox, right? But that's taking into account like Series S and Game Pass, whatnot. Right? Sure, let's be a little bit extra. Are every single one of those people going to go buy a Helix? Probably not. So like I think if you're being generous, maybe 15 to 25, probably closer to 20 after some time. But I think that entry cost is going to be
Key.
like that's where the problem's going to be. Like you're not going to see the big boom big massive boom demand like that we had at the launch of this generation. The people spending is much less than it ever has been, and it's going to need to be a pretty big sell.
Mm.
And as Max said, in order to make it, a reasonable price, you're not going to get what people would consider the PC experience.
Yeah. Interest rates just went up today. Vinny?
Well, at least I'm thinking I'm going to be able to own a home. So
Yeah, I know, right?
For those that own homes, congratulations. I don't think I ever will own one again.
It's not fun. Vinny, Helix thoughts and prediction for sales.
Look, I don't know if the Helix is going to do too well if it's competing with both the PC market, the Steam machine market, and then the actual competing with itself. Like, I actually think it's in more of a... It's not just competing with... And also competing with the PlayStation. You know what I mean? And the price point is huge, what Max said. So I reckon it's probably going to hit what Ryan said, about the 20 million mark. I don't think it's going to do any better because the people who have Game Pass and want the console experience have that already. But as someone who plays a lot of PC games with a controller, I do like the idea of having... I have a very... we all know the Steam sales are fantastic throughout the year. I do have a library of games that I have played on PC, but they're console games. Like The Witcher 3 is a good example of a game that I played on PC, and Elden Ring as well, where it's I really enjoyed playing those games, but I use them with a controller. I've done this. I've essentially made a, what? The people who can see, I have a little... This thing is my piece. Is another PC I have that is built out of spare parts. And
He's made a Steam box. They're coming for you.
Nerd.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it.
The
Welcome,
Vin
Lord boys.
The Vin box.
Yeah, but it was
Not a
what I
sex
had
thing.
in my... Yeah, and it was what I had in my place with my housemate, where we just booted up one of our Steam accounts, plugged in the TV, and we just played it like that. And that's the best part about that is emulation, playing all my old retro stuff at high quality, 60 FPS and 4K upscaling. But no actual hardcore PC fan is gonna want it's what Max said. They're not gonna want to go to the lounge room to play. They want to use their WASD. They want to use their mouse and keyboard.
Yeah, I think I'm in overall agreement. I don't own any PC games. I think we had a look at my Steam account a few weeks back, and I think the last game I played on Steam was Dive Kick in 2011. So no real interest for me, and I agree. I think it's going to be interesting to see how they position Helix as a hybrid, whether they lean into the fact that it is a hybrid, whether they position it as a console first. They've also got the unique approach where they're talking about other manufacturers also making Helix consoles. So there is this spreading the field that could take place. There's the idea that it's, as PC parts become more expensive, it actually becomes an appealing way to play PC games because Microsoft have priced this cheaper than an equivalent PC. So there is all that. But I agree in terms of sales, I'm more 15-ish million. And that's based on, if you think the current Xbox Series is 35 million. Oh my God. Goodness.
Max just dropped his whole headset on his cat's face.
If we think the series is 35 million and 50% of those are Series S players who have purchased a cheap console, right? An entry-level console. Are those same players then going to buy a Helix, which is 1,600 Australian dollars or 1,200 USD or 1,000 USD, whatever? Who knows, right? And have those players already moved to PC in a way that there's no need to buy a Helix. So I think that, and I'm not the only person to kind of think of this idea or talk about it. The idea is this machine acting as a ramp to PC, and it's well, if you're really hardcore and you've got this library of Xbox games that you want to support and continue to own, here's the console for you. It's there. It also plays your PC games. It's expensive. It's boutique. But if you've moved to PC, here's Xbox PC on Windows 11 that we'd love for you to use instead of Steam. So I think that's the play.
That's actually a very good point. So if this is going to be the last ever Xbox, which all reasons to think would be the case, by having it be a mix going like, hey, this is the last go at it. You're getting a little taste of Xbox, but just so you know, when this is done, you've got all this infrastructure to go over there. It's actually kind of, yeah, true.
Yeah. So yeah, that's where I land on Xbox. But let's get out of here. Let's wrap up. Max, Ryan, thank you so much for having us, or us having you.
Yeah.
on
thanks, guys.
this episode. It's been
It's such a good chat that we actually missed parts of your little doc.
Yeah.
We haven't even touched upon, like anticipated games, nothing.
we can save it for another discussion perhaps one day. But it's been great
Does that mean
having.
we'll have to come back?
Yes, potentially.
Or
What
maybe
a
we can go on
shame.
Yeah.
What a shame.
Or we'll stumble into your
Or
show
vice
and just,
versa.
blow it
Yeah.
up a little. But yeah, thank you for jumping on and making the time. We have gone 2+ hours. I really appreciate it. Maybe Ryan, if you can just tell us where people can find you and the podcast.
Yeah, if you liked the utter nonsense that spewed out of my face and the good insight that came out of Max's, you can be sure to check us out. We're called For the Players, the Pop Culturist PlayStation podcast. You find us on all your podcast services. We are on YouTube as well. If you want to follow us on social media, I'm at HaggardMC. That's HAGGARDMC. On near on everything. Max, you can spiel yours.
I'm at BPossess101 on pretty much everything. So,
But yeah, so whether it be on the PlayStations themselves or on the socials, come hit us up. Let us know your thoughts. We appreciate it.
And you guys record live on Twitch every. Is it
Oh,
Sunday?
that we do, yeah. So on Sunday nights or sometimes Mondays, depending if I have wrestling or we get lazy. We record the show live. Yeah, twitch.tv/thepopculturists.
No, awesome. Thank you for jumping on. And we're Dodge, Parry Roll. We're a fortnightly show here on YouTube because A, we're lazy, and 2, I can't talk to Vinny each week. Once a fortnight, we have enough
enough
content in our lives where when we get to the show, we've actually got something cool to talk about as opposed to like, how was your week? Oh, I'm tired, and the kids are doing my head in. And
Josh's lawn. This is
My
the
lawn.
first time we haven't spoken about your lawn.
No, we did talk Bombineri though, so we at least deviated from the path at some point. But yeah, check us out on YouTube, available on podcast feeds each and every second Friday. But you can find us on YouTube. Please subscribe to both us and For the Players. Vinny, no, Ryan and Max, thank you. Hope to talk to. I hope you guys enjoyed being here and spending 2 hours with us. I hope
Absolutely.
sorry about the absolute chaos at the end. My cat managed to get tangled up in the cables behind my monitor, so it ripped out my HDMI cable, my mic, and my headphones. So I couldn't
is that what that
anything.
was?
I actually had to get up and do stuff.
you pulled it
The
off
best part was
though.
when you dropped the headset on the
Yeah.
cat's
Yeah.
face.
Yeah, well, he deserved that. So at least he was fucking dickhead.
But Ryan,
The one
Max,
place he's not allowed to do it. It's the only place he wants to see it.
No, but thank you for having us. I can speak for myself, obviously, but I've had a really good time getting to talk all nerdy, deep diving into this stuff. And it's nice to sort of hang around and chat with other shows because I listen to you guys, and I know Josh, you listen to us, so it's kind of nice to sort of have worlds collide for a little bit.
It's nice to talk to someone who isn't Ryan.
That's also true. Yeah, I can totally understand that.
Different perspectives is always good, and it's
Yeah,
been a
for
hot
sure.
minute since we've played it with other people.
Yeah, and as you've heard today, I'm very opinionated. So Max is like, just fucking anyone else, please.
that's okay. I'm very opinionated too. I'm sure Vinny. Maybe the perfect podcast is actually Max and Vinny.
Just be like, what do you think? Yeah, whatever. Yeah,
moving
same.
on.
It's good.
But no, thank you for joining us, Vinny. As always, you want to send us off?
May the power protect you.
Goodbye.